Hello, everyone, and welcome to our annual Captain Logan Show Christmas special, which is a lot like a regular Captain Logan show, except we're wearing Santa hats, and there might be some Christmas-themed topics. I am your host, Captain Logan. My name is in the title, and next to me is Jason, whose name is not in the title, but he is very integral to the show because he reads the questions since I am illiterate. And also across the way is our good friend, John, who is joining us this evening to make it feel like a bigger deal. So we invite friends.
And I do not have a Santa hat, so that's just how I stand out.
You just don't own one?
Is that because
like
you got like a bah humbug thing going on, or should I have given you notice to wear a Santa hat?
I don't have one. If I had one, I would have worn it. But
Well, that's okay, John. It wasn't a prerequisite, or I would have told you.
that's good.
Thanks for being here, John. It's good to see you, buddy.
No problem. I love coming on.
We haven't had you in
Smallville.
I know we haven't had you for anything in a while because I haven't had time to do the marathon streams. And after season 6, we were talking really seriously about doing something else in between, just so we didn't have to do more Smallville right away. And we haven't even had time to do that. So we'll get back to Smallville next year. John and I have been kicking around Power Rangers and Buffy, and there's all kinds of streams we want to do to waste everybody's time watching TV with us.
We will find the one TV show that nobody but you and I care about.
Well, I know what that is. Because we were talking about Beetleborgs the other day, and that is probably that show.
Yeah, that or VR Troopers or any of those 90s.
Any of those.
Yeah, I prefer VR Troopers to Beetleborgs.
Yeah, but the VR Troopers theme is not nearly as earwormy.
That's a good point.
I don't know. That was the one I always got stuck in the head as a kid.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
A big bad Beetleborg. That guy's got such a weird voice too. Like 3 average. I can't remember how it goes anymore. Like,
and when they throw it off, and when they have to add metallics into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was even more awkward than Go-Go Alien Rangers. Just having to sneak in the word alien in that line. Yep, we're back to nothing but tokusatsu talk. We got John here.
Yep.
Anyway, folks, so Christmas show tonight. Feel free to ask questions at any point or leave topics. Doesn't have to be Christmas or holiday themed, but it absolutely can be. Top super chatter for this evening is going to get to choose the second Superhero Rewind commentary for next year. Austin and I already have a plan for kind of a big doozy one for the first stream out of the year, but we're gonna let whoever has the most super chat cash tonight, and no pressure. If you don't want to leave a super chat, don't feel like you have to. But I thought for this show I'd throw in a reward. Haven't done that in a while, so feel free to do that if you're so inclined. You can also leave regular questions and comments in the live chat if you're watching live right now, and make sure to tag those at Jason or at Video Game Secrets or at Space Invaders Christmas.
Yeah.
Jason will respond to any of those things and more. Jason's, we both got ugly Christmas sweaters tonight. I also didn't give John the memo for that, but I'm going to assume if he doesn't have a Santa hat, he probably also doesn't have one of those.
I do not.
But I've got the Santa Claus, or the Santa dinosaur. So my shirt, I'm wearing a Santa hat.
Automatically cooler than Santa Claus.
My shirt has a character wearing a Santa Claus. Or a Santa hat wearing a Santa Claus. I don't know what the hell I'm saying tonight. We got a slew, a plethora of news to deal with tonight. A lot of it has to do with the DCU. So kind of a nice change of pace. John, we're going to have to just talk about MCU the entire time. I've got one little bit of MCU that we'll talk about, mostly just to make fun of a thing. You know what it is. And then, but before that, it's all James Gunn and Superman stuff. So we'll let John weigh in on some of the stuff also. And it is unfortunate that the Captain Logan show is no longer on Thursdays, because Thursday tends to be the big trailer drop day and the big geeky news day in general. It'll be nice if eventually we can get back to that schedule. schedule. It's all Jason's fault because of
I'm sorry.
dance classes. We cannot do that show Thursday nights anymore, at least right now. But it's different every semester, so I don't know. It could change around for us next year. But anyway, the Superman trailer, or teaser, I should say, is dropping tomorrow. We did get a teaser for the teaser today, which is mostly just spoilers. It's the Daily Planet and Superman's cape and people looking up, surprised to see Superman.
Oh yeah,
and that's it. It's a teaser for the teaser.
I love teasers for teasers. That's amazing.
I hate that they do that.
So sick of this trend.
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
Stop announcing
and you can tell Gunn doesn't like it either. Like, it's not his idea. It's just that's what they do. So he's going along with it. But it sounds like he intentionally made sure that the teaser didn't have hardly anything that's in the actual teaser. So he said there's one shot in it that is partially in the teaser, in the actual teaser. The rest of it is stuff that's not even in that teaser tomorrow. So
it's great.
That's a nice
is
change
it the
of
people
pace.
looking up?
Yeah. Well, Austin's theory is that that's a wide, and they just showed you some of those people zoomed in. So I don't know. Senior Sticks, super chat.
Will Tis Spectacular leave you craven, Cap and John?
Senior Sticks, I'm sorry, man. About 35% of the time, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what that means.
I'm not the only one that didn't know what that meant.
Let's say I'm gonna go with yes. Spectacular.
I'm gonna go with no, just to be different.
Spectacular leaves me craven because it ended on a cliffhanger and you didn't get a season 3. So
I don't like it when things are different.
Yeah. Craven's in that show, isn't he, John?
I've only seen like half of season 1.
Okay. I think he is.
That sounds familiar.
I think he's there kind of early, but I haven't seen that in years. I mean, it's probably been.
Have you seen all of it?
Well over a decade. Yeah, but it's been no. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I've only seen the first season. I never saw season 2. I just know that it wasn't over and people wanted a third season and they didn't get it. So when I say cliffhanger, I guess I don't actually know that for sure, but I know there were like threads left dangling.
That's a show I kind of kick myself for missing because, like, I remember when it was coming out, I was like, "This looks terrible," and then I just stopped hearing about it for a while, and now everybody tells me how it's brilliant, and I just haven't gotten around to watching it.
Senior Sticks is still just saying odd things I don't even completely understand what they mean. Dan's how's the news? I'm assuming he means how's Dan's news, but he wrote Dan's how's the news. I haven't talked to Dan in a while. Or
he might be talking to Dan's Den.
I should say. Oh, maybe he is. Oh, maybe that is what he's saying. It's just he put Dan and news in the same. So I thought that's probably who he was talking about.
Yeah, have you talked to Dan recently?
I haven't talked to. No, it's been a while. I should send him a message.
Yeah, you should.
I'd love to get him on for something again because it's been forever.
Yeah.
He seems good though. He's been streaming again on YouTube.
Yeah.
Again, finally, it's been a long time. But before we get to the DCU of it all, let's open with a Patreon question because I remembered that's the opening segment. I think even Jason forgot. But
I just didn't have my phone, so I was like, oh.
See, it's because you forgot. Yeah.
Andre Godzilla says Kraven is in season 2, but he's a weird combination of Raven and Puma.
Oh, that's why I wasn't sure because I guess I haven't seen him then.
You know
somebody
what?
said.
I think I've seen that design. Yeah,
Hayden said he's a mutated lion monster.
Yeah.
Which makes it sound like he should belong in Batman Beyond.
Oh, by the way, I have a question for you. For the Superhero Rewind movie, are you going to make Once Upon a Superhero Rewind movie?
Make like a way more kid-friendly version of it?
Yeah.
Not that it's, a super adult thing in the first place, but I mean...
Yeah, and then you're just going to add a random scene with a Christmas tree?
So you want me to have a bookend where I'm explaining what may make it like a older version of Captain Logan in the future?
Yeah.
Explaining... the movie to somebody. We'll have to talk about this privately, Jason, but I had an amusing idea for something to maybe add to one of the last scenes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about it.
Okay.
I kind of want to tell you about it right now, but it would spoil things, so I'm not going to.
Okay, tell me right now.
I had an amusing idea about recasting someone or casting someone as a character that's already in the movie, but as a different age. and I want to talk to you about it.
Oh my gosh.
Because it might be really amusing.
I think that could be really funny.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I know. Oh my gosh.
I think it could work. We'll talk about it later.
That could be funny.
Okay. Anyway, what's our Patreon question for this evening?
Patreon question is from Sakib Tariq.
And by the way, as always, patreon.com/geekvolution, $2 tier, lets you put in a question ahead of time each month. Go ahead.
He asks,
Yeah.
what's on your bucket list of places to travel to? I just came back from Paris, France, and it has a really cool cinematic history.
It does. That's neat. I don't know if I'll ever go to Paris because I've been to the airport.
It was the worst.
That was one of the great nightmares of my life. I never want to go back there just because I don't want to get stuck in that airport again. God, that was like the seventh circle of hell. I mean, it was just absolutely terrible. We got stuck there, and when we landed, this is a trip I took to Germany with my wife back in 2017. Only time I've left the country so far, and we had to go to we had a layover at the Paris airport after we left Germany, and as soon as we got there, we were stuck in customs so long we knew we weren't going to make the flight. Like, it was about 10 minutes. You could just tell there's no way you're making your flight. It's gonna get delayed, and it was awful. And it was a horrible airport. Anyway, but so Paris is not high on my list. But the big one for me is Japan. I think that's a big one for Jason too.
Yeah.
He and I have talked about doing that trip together forever.
Yeah. I don't know how fun some of it will be, just because I feel like we're gonna get stuck at the bus station.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll be a cool Japanese bus station.
Yeah. Have you seen the maps?
Huh.
They literally look like a Windows 95 screensaver. It's like
weird.
Yeah, you can't follow it. But
all we're talking about is travel woes right now. We could be making this way more interesting.
Japan's big on my list. Germany is big on my list. Switzerland as well.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Switzerland. So I said I've only left the country once, but I went to 4 countries in Europe, and Lucerne is the coolest place I've ever been. And I'm going to go back there and just spend 2 weeks there.
Yeah.
I found a really cool comic shop there, too.
Ooh.
But anyway, John, what is yours?
Mine is nowhere near as interesting. Like Japan, I definitely would like to go to because I do like, anime, that kind of stuff. But the big one for me isn't even leaving the country. It's just I'd like to go to Seattle. There's like a grunge museum in that over there that I want to visit. I find that era of music interesting.
Oh, sure.
And I've already been to the rock and roll museum in Cincinnati, which was really cool.
Do you travel very much, John?
No. For one thing, I don't like flying, so like that's why I don't have like a big bucket list of places outside the country because I know I'm not going to get on an airplane.
Yeah, I don't like it either, but it's like I just need some downtime once I get there, and then I'm okay. The Germany trip was rough because we had to immediately. It was like a bus tour trip. We had to immediately get on a bus with a bunch of people and start going sightseeing as soon as we landed, and that was terrible. Like, I needed to sleep 8 hours.
Oh, that seems terrible. But no, like if I did go somewhere, it'd probably be Japan.
We'll take John with us.
Yeah, let's take John with us.
Yeah, I want to go for video game culture and also for ancient Japanese culture. Like I want to do both of those things. I want to see as much history as I can, and then I want to see as much geeky crap from the last 30 years as I can.
I really want to go to this.
It's like feudal Japan and last 30 years and nothing in between.
Yes. I really want to go to the Pokemon store and the Sega arcade.
Yeah. Man, my brain will explode when I go to an arcade that is nothing but Sega. I didn't even realize they had that.
Yeah.
I don't think I can handle that. I think I will weep uncontrollably when I see that.
Yeah.
I have a really weird, like, deep personal affection for Sega. At least old Sega.
They're the only console manufacturer I've never owned any of their hardware.
Oh, it's not there anymore. What the heck?
Man, you and I just can't be friends. What? They got rid of it?
Yeah,
I guess we're not going to the Sega arcade.
2 years ago. What the heck?
Now I'm gonna weep uncontrollably the other way.
So I start with the Nintendo 64, and then I moved over to GameCube. So I was a Nintendo kid until the PS3.
Yeah. See, I want to call you a youngin', but then we do so much stuff with people even a lot younger than us that now you feel way closer to my age than you would have at one time. It's like John at least knows what Beetleborgs is. Senior Sticks, another $5 super chat. Will the Geekvolution Rewind film have an after credit scene as all things are destined for the sequel? As all things are destined for the sequel. I don't know. Should we say?
I mean, if you want to wait for a possible after credit scene, you can wait through the credits to see if there is one. If you'd like to.
I think I'm going to throw you a solid probably, but I won't tell you at all what it is or if it's sequel bait, if it's any kind of setting up for a sequel.
Yeah.
Just because you have an after credit scene doesn't mean that that's what it's for. Sometimes it's just an amusing tacked on bit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's Deadpool doing Ferris Bueller. Like, it could be anything.
Okay. Post credit scenes now just set up the next movie. They are never ignored when the next movie finally comes out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is they set it up, and then very often you're being lied to because they change it, or they don't really know what they're doing, so they just put a pin in it and they go, psych.
Imagine if the end of the first Back to the Future was an after credit scene.
Yeah. Well, and then that's really funny because it might as well be, it does get retconned.
Yeah.
They refilm it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me just make sure that that Robert's not trying to get in here yet, because he's going to come in late. He said about half an hour. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some news here. So we've got the new poster for Superman, which is real classic looking. I'm real happy with it. I love the colors. It's really pretty. Yeah. We got a side-by-side comparison here from comicbook.com, putting it next to Christopher Reeve, and that seems a little bit obvious, but part of the reason they're doing that, and I don't know if that poster is directly looking at that Christopher Reeve poster. I hadn't even had that thought, but maybe.
Yeah.
But part of the reason that they're doing that is because this article is also discussing the teaser music that came with that poster. So a couple days ago, we get this poster, and if you looked at it on Twitter, it was accompanied by this music that's this woman humming, and it sounds like a total 50-50 cross between the Man of Steel Zimmer music and then the John Williams 78 music, especially because right when you get to the end, she is just straight up humming that theme. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that because I'm curious to see how you guys feel about that. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that we got music right away. You don't have to accompany, a poster. And then the very next day we get, or maybe it was a couple days in between, but anyway, today we get the teaser for the teaser that also includes that music. So I want to assume that music is probably going to be in the teaser trailer. But given that the teaser for the teaser is supposed to not have very much footage that's actually in the real teaser, is everyone following me? It might be completely different.
Yeah.
Who knows? And a lot of people in the comments before we started speculating about what that is and whether we're going to get that movie is going to get its own theme, or if it really is going to sound like that. And I kind of want to withhold judgment to some degree. My knee-jerk is don't go back to John Williams at all. Like, I've never wanted anything else to do that. And then I realized, John, that I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I was actually fine with it in Smallville. But I haven't really wanted it anywhere else. So I guess it's a case-by-case before it's never do it, which is why I want to say withhold judgment. But if it's incorporated in the movie a little bit somehow and it's kind of subtle, although I don't think that was especially subtle, I think it was pretty clear what that was, maybe I'll be okay with it depending on how exactly it's integrated. But I don't want to be. I think that, weirdly, the Man of Steel thing actually bugs me a little bit more. I don't really want to be reminded of that movie too much going into this one. John, what's your immediate response to that?
So I'm kind of indifferent. I would like us to just kind of move away from Superman the movie, like just give us a new Superman movie. Because you had mentioned like with Smallville, and I think the difference is that Smallville came out, what is it, almost 20 years, a little over 20 years ago at this point.
And we hadn't had any other continuity yet.
We
in
had
film anyway. We had Lois and Clark and stuff, but
we hadn't had any other continuities. We hadn't done like the tribute to Reeves in those movies and John Williams to death. But since then, we've had Superman Returns, which is just trying to be the Donner movies. I think that score shows up in Justice League, the theatrical cut, if I remember. So I kind of just want to move on, like a fresh, completely new take on Superman in both score and writing. But if it's there, it's there. Like it won't ruin it for me. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see if I can be won over on it, which is, again, why I'm not immediately going, boo, don't do that. Like, before I heard that, I would say, yeah, let's not. And even hearing it, I'm like, okay. But the argument that it might potentially work is, for me, Jason, is the Batman. Because one of my big praises for that movie when it came out was that it was a really lovely hodgepodge of like homages and connections to nearly every Batman thing I've ever seen, on film especially, and it carves out its own tone in blending all of those things. And there are even little musical cues that remind you of some of the other Batman movies, particularly Batman Returns. And so I feel like it would be I feel like it would be wrong of me to say I need this movie to not remind me of any other Superman thing I've ever seen, because I loved when the Batman blended so many things and then gave me something very fresh and new out of it. And so this has the potential to do that. Having said that, there's not anything in that movie that is directly just flat out from another continuity, like with this, if the movie itself actually uses any of the John Williams score. And I mean, is it possible that it's doing that just to sell it and the movie doesn't have it? Honestly, I'd be surprised. I'm not really sure what the strategy is there. Let's evoke the other two big, like arguably successful. I mean, Man of Steel was a mixed bag for people, or I should say was polarizing for people, but like there's not a lot of contention. You got 78 in Superman 2 together, and then you got Man of Steel, and beyond that, none of those are especially well liked or did especially well at the box office. So the two successful ones, you're being reminded of with that teaser poster and that music, and then the movie doesn't use them at all. I'm not sure what the strategy would be there. Mm-hmm. It seems like an odd choice.
Well, and I wonder if some of that is holdover from when it was called Superman Legacy. And I wonder if at some point this was going to be more of like, we're going to pay tribute to all of the incarnations of Superman. And then when they changed the name, it's like, well, it's not going to be quite about that, but we'll still have some of that stuff like in the score.
Yeah, perhaps.
And with Gunn movies, I typically think more about like the music that he puts in it versus the score.
Yeah, but
reason I'm kind of indifferent.
And we'll talk about this a little bit later. But one of the new things we know about this movie, and he's I don't want to say spoiled too much, but he's told us a shocking amount this week, and we're going to go down the list here in a little bit of things we know now. John, I don't know if you've seen that article, but Gunn has come out and said that this movie will have some songs, but it doesn't have a whole soundtrack like his other movies have, that it's a lot more score heavy, which I'm happy to hear. But is it possible that when it was called Legacy that John's right and the legacy in the title was more of a meta thing. It was more about the 80+ year culmination of the Superman history in comics and film, etc., as opposed to a Superman that's been around for a long time. Because we know with this movie that he's and it's not like he totally rewrote the movie and it's a different thing since he changed the title. Like, he just got finally finished with the script and went, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't have told everybody the title again. Legacy is, he said this week too, Legacy is about looking backwards. I want this to be a lot more about looking forward and being hopeful and optimistic. And so, and apparently the movie also only takes place in a short period of time. I thought it was going to maybe jump around, and he says it apparently doesn't. So, maybe the point of it was always the movie wants to pay tribute some to big Superman stuff from the past. And so, John, it's also possible that that's not the only theme that you hear in the movie. Like, it'd be kind of interesting if it gave us that, but it also went to
movie, it will be the greatest movie ever.
I missed that. What'd you say?
If Somebody Save Me is in there somewhere, this is the perfect Superman movie.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, but like I could see, like the Bruce Timm theme is in there somewhere, just real subtly. Is it gonna be like the Mario movie where we just go to all the major soundtracks? I don't know if I want that, but I could kind of maybe see it. I almost like that better than just John Williams and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I would like that more, because if you're gonna do John Williams, just do like a hodgepodge. Like either do it all or don't do any of it.
Yeah.
I love the poster.
It's classy.
I was already a fan of the suit from just like the set photos and that first reveal, but now that we're seeing it with, I assume, some kind of digital touch-ups that'll have in the movie, I think the suit looks amazing. Yeah, I'm excited for this.
The symbol is growing on me more and more, and I can't remember what it was from, but Austin sent me a picture the other day of a symbol that's really similar to the Kingdom Come symbol that goes all the way back to like the 70s.
Really?
I think, yeah. There's apparently precedent for it. Now, we know that Gunn's been looking at Kingdom Come really hard, to the point where he wouldn't let the animated movie side do an adaptation. Because it seems like they're doing a lot. They're probably going to do a lot of Kingdom Come stuff in DCU. So that's got to be the main inspiration for that. But it is interesting to note that symbol's been around longer than that.
It wouldn't shock me if he knows that.
It wouldn't me either.
Yeah, Kingdom Come and All-Star, I think, are the two big books he named for this movie.
Yeah, and All-Star, he said, was his biggest inspiration for this script. And so speaking of that, let me just go ahead and, as quickly as we can, go through this Screen Rant article. And I'm not going to read all of the individual quotes, but we'll just go down the information that we learned from an interview from him this week. And if we need to, I'll quote him directly occasionally. But again, this is from Screen Rant, and these are the 15 biggest things Screen Rant says we learned from James Gunn on the set of the 2025 DC movie.
Oh, great, Screen Rant.
So yeah, we've had issues with Screen Rant, but this is at least not an opinion list. It's actually things that we.
Hey, did you know that Tony Stark shouldn't have let Ultron go?
He really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, he really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Did you know it was a bad idea for the government to make Captain America and then just send him on an SEO tour?
Yeah, did you know
that was kind of dumb? Why did they do that?
That was a dumb. It didn't hold up.
15. James Gunn's Superman starts in the middle of things and takes place over a short amount of time. So I alluded to this earlier. Apparently, it's a real in medias res kind of opening, and that's not all that surprising with the kinds of movies he makes. He likes to jump right in the middle of action with stuff, but that will make it feel immediately like the most direct off the page comic book Superman movie we've ever had. 14, Superman is less of a comedy than the Suicide Squad and Guardians, which was probably a given, but kind of nice to hear him come out and say that. A lot of the details we get in this article give you the sense that he's getting way, and I hope this is true, that he's getting way out of his comfort zone and trying to make a movie that's not just the kind of thing he always does and is a little away from his sensibilities just to make it what it ought to be. And that's why, years ago now, I said the number one thing I want to see James Gunn make is Superman, because that's such the antithesis of the kind of stuff that he makes, but I know how big of a comic book fan he is, and I know that he knows how to tell a story and that he puts a lot of like real heart and humanity into his characters. So I thought it's likely he can do that, and if he can, it would prove that he's got versatility. And he can make a lot of different kinds of things. 13, Superman's casting process gave James Gunn one of his greatest moments in filmmaking, and he's talking about the romantic chemistry between Corn Sweat and Brosnahan, so that's exciting. Lois and Clark already know each other when Superman begins.
Good.
And so there's not a lot of origin stuff with this. You already have an established relationship for them. They're not dating, but they're already familiar with each other. And going along with that, Lex already hates Superman at the start of the film.
Okay.
So we don't have to develop any of that.
Okay.
Which makes me very happy.
I didn't know if you would be happy about that, or because I know you like how they did that in Smallville, but
yeah, well, and another thing that this article talks about a little bit is that they don't have the kind of background that they do in something like Smallville. They're not friends as kids or anything.
Okay.
Which I'm not immediately against. Is seeing attempted again. That's real Golden Age Superman. Like that does go back to the comics, but it is easier to do it without that. Certainly, that can be a tough sell.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't mind seeing another like childhood, like friends when they were younger, just like they can't stay friends. But I'm glad we're getting just comic book Lex, like modern comic book Lex, because I don't like any of the movie versions of Lex that I've seen. So it sounds like this is more my preferred take on Lex.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lot happier with that too.
I'm just glad that we're at that point where we don't have to start at origin.
Everybody bear with me, I'm just bringing Robert in here. Okay, Robert does indeed have both an ugly sweater and a Santa hat. Well done, Robert.
Thank you.
This guy.
Where's your Christmas spirit, John?
It's over there.
Okay, you guys are in somewhat small boxes just because it's faster, so apologies for how small you guys are right now. Let's continue moving through this list. Actually, before I do that, since Robert wasn't able to weigh in, Robert, what are your, just real briefly, what are your thoughts on the new Superman poster and the fact that there's a lady humming the John Williams theme behind it in a Twitter video, and it also sounds a lot like the Man of Steel soundtrack, because we're debating about whether or not that's what the movie's actually going to sound like, and if we're okay with that theme being in there at all. What is your take on that?
I like it. I think I'm the odd one out here, because immediately I thought of Man of Steel. I was like, oh, this is a very Man of Steel sounding soundtrack, which I like, so I don't mind that. And then it took me a minute to catch on. Oh, they're doing they're riffing on the Williams theme. That's kind of cool. Obviously, people are conflicted on if they should or shouldn't be doing that. It's not necessarily something I want, but I mean, for all we know, that 30 seconds could literally be all the Williams score that's in the movie. We've heard 30 seconds of it, so there's not a lot to go on as to what the whole score is going to sound like. But you'll probably get to this in a minute in the article, but James Gunn has said that this is a very score-driven movie.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit
soundtrack
already.
Heavy. Okay. So yeah, it's not going to be as soundtrack heavy as his previous work. So hopefully the whole score is great. I mean, whether you like the Williams riff or not. If it's very small, if it's only 30 seconds like that, then I can roll with it. I think it's a cool blend of things. I mean, I agree that it should be kind of an homage of everything. The problem is Williams is so iconic that everything after Williams, with basically the exception of the Man of Steel score, is riffing on Williams. So it's like, I think you guys mentioned like the Superman the Animated Series score, which, is different, but is clearly influenced by the Williams score. So I don't know how to homage everything without, but I don't know. I like what I've heard of it so far. That's my take. I like the poster. I'm very excited for this movie.
Robert, do you agree
That's
with me
my spiel.
that they should put the Smallville theme in there?
Of course. Oh, there should be one. There should be one pre-existing song on this soundtrack, and it should be "Somebody Save Me." I'd be very happy. That should be in this movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there's going to be some incidental stuff. He's just not doing as much of that as usual. And I'm actually going to go against the grain with you guys on that a little bit and say, if we got to go to Smallville at all, I need a Lifehouse song. Please give me a Lifehouse song.
I would settle for that.
John and I want Lifehouse. Okay, number 10, Gunn credits DC's entire past, including Zack Snyder as an influence.
Clark.
Just all of them.
Clark!
Everything. And like I said earlier, he does go on record to say All-Star Superman influenced him more than anything, and he also credits Zack Snyder with Man of Steel a little bit, and it's... Oops! I just clicked on the wrong scene there. Now we're back to Craven.
That movie.
I want to think that that's actually sincere, and that's not him just trying to make the Snyder fanboys happy in saying that. The fact that the music that we heard with that teaser for the teaser, which I still kind of wonder if that music is even going to be in the actual teaser we get tomorrow. Do you guys think the teaser before the teaser only exists so that a bunch of YouTubers have like more stuff to milk?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
The teaser before the teaser.
See that and know that the trailer is coming.
Yeah, it's the teaser before the teaser before the second teaser before the trailer 2 before the final trailer.
But I was just gonna say,
okay.
we are proving he's proving with that music sounding at all like Man of Steel that indeed he is influenced by that in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they're not just saying like pretending that those movies didn't happen, whether you like them or not. I think it's important to remember that they did happen.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it didn't happen.
I mean, I like those movies.
Robert, I love the Man of Steel soundtrack to pieces. I just kind of don't want to be reminded of it too much looking at this movie, unless just because I want this to like stand apart, stand on its own, be a little bit less jaded feeling than that was. Not that with that soundtrack it had to feel that way, but it would. You weren't here when I said this earlier, so I'll repeat it just real briefly and say I'm immediately more okay with being reminded of one thing if it does the Batman thing and it reminds me of everything. So if it's got a little of that and a little of Superman the movie and a little of, I don't know, Smallville and a little of the and I'm not just talking about in score, little Lois and Clark, the way he's talking about Clark and Superman as a dual identity, we'll get to that in a minute, reminds me a lot of the way it's handled in Lois and Clark. So like I'm already being reminded of other iterations, a little bit of DCAU. Then I'm more okay with all of that.
We got a comment from Goofster123.
Yeah.
I saw someone on Twitter speculate that Gunn is having the 78 theme we heard in the motion poster be something Laura hums to Cal as a lullaby.
Yeah, so read that again. Did he say he heard that as a rumor, or
he saw someone on Twitter speculate that?
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I saw that as is just an idea somebody had, but I didn't know if there was any credibility to that.
No, but
that's kind of cute. I guess I wouldn't mind that horribly.
Yeah, I don't mind it. And as for the Man of Steel influence, I'm with you because I love the Man of Steel score. And I guess for me, speaking as someone who does like that movie, I would like something that sounds similar in a movie I like more, or in a movie where the emotions, the music is telling me kind of match what I'm seeing on screen, which is something I'm very give or take with Man of Steel. So it's kind of interesting because, we're now over a decade past that movie, and it feels very similar, just the hype of, it's a new Superman movie. This is kind of exciting, and I haven't felt this since 2012, and I guess my hope is that this movie just turns out better than that one, which is a movie I like. So that's where I'm not as put off by like, this sounds kind of similar. That's kind of neat because I want to like that movie more than I do.
Yeah, The more we're hearing about this, the more I'm thinking it has a good chance at being a perfect companion piece to the Batman all the way around. Like, I know I keep going back to this with Score, but also, like, it's maybe kind of early in his career, but it's not an origin thing, so he's been around a little while and we're just catching up with him. Like, there's already some kind of cool parallels I'm seeing.
Hmm?
We're not getting an emo Superman though, so.
And so, you know, in the same way that kind of that finally gave us the dark detective Batman we'd never really gotten on the big screen before. Like, we'd taken Batman to somewhat darker places. We never let him be a straight up detective, and we never pushed the R rating as close as we got with that. And then the Penguin just jumps off the ledge with that. With Superman, I'm hoping that it goes that far in the other direction. And the more we're seeing from it, it looks like it might. And I don't mean that I don't want this movie to have any sort of an edge to it at all, where it can't, let Superman be, let his, moral code and sensibilities be massively challenged by a dark and cynical world. Obviously, you want some of that, but you want it to be, as hopeful as the Batman, at least initially, until he kind of goes through his character arc, is really depressing and oppressive.
Cap, are you in the camp now of just wanting the Batman to be straight up DCU and have this Superman meet that Batman, or do you still want that to be a separate thing? And
no, I love
the DCU Batman to be.
I love them separated. And that's actually part of the reason I like the idea of these as sort of companion pieces, where they're not even in the same world, but they're kind of talking to each other mirrored tonally and thematically. And, like, could they have done that? Sure. But I want to finally get Best of Both Worlds, where you can have a Batman that is still detective, but that lives in a world with the high concept sci-fi and fantasy stuff that they're just not going to do in that other world. And Batman is a little bit like X-Men, where it's such a robust universe all by itself, it doesn't need the rest of DC. So obviously, Robert, I might be singing a different tune if we said, for some stupid reason, because the Batman is its own continuity, the DCU just can't have a Batman at all. But since it's going to get one, I'm really happy that I get two Batmans at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, when they first announced this, I was like, oh, I just put Pattinson in there. But now that we know that, like, we're getting, like, the Kate is it the Brave and the Bold? I'm fine with there being two separate Batman.
It's especially since we can leave Matt Reeves and Pattinson alone and let them do their own thing and not have any conflict of interest, like, with the universe at large, which is a big thing that Gunn talks about, though, with this universe, is letting projects still be standalone and very creative driven, which I appreciate. But it's nice still that with the Batman universe, that no, they get to just do their own thing and not worry about, like, that Clayface movie that's going to be DCU. Like, it doesn't matter if Matt Reeves wants to use Clayface or not, because that other Clayface movie is going to be this separate thing, and that's really cool. Like you said, best of both worlds.
Yeah, see, I was a little of two minds about it, because Gunn's been talking about a really loose sort of continuity where they're not doing a ton of intentional world building like MCU did anyway, where everything is setting up something else and where they have to have a lot of synergy and match tones. But you're right, you still are going to have the same problem you have with editorial at DC or Marvel, when even as you're letting all these books have different tones, and your Gotham and your Metropolis don't always have to look the same as somebody else's Gotham and Metropolis, you still want to kind of keep track of, and they haven't always done a good job of this, where characters are in each other's books. And if Pattinson's Batman is in this universe, you're right, if somebody gets Clayface, the other person's not going to get him right away. So that is what's kind of nice about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like there's a chance we'll get two Clayfaces at the same time. I don't know why we're having like this Clayface renaissance right now. And then like
I love it.
The Batman '89 novel that I'm reading that I haven't had a chance to finish and review yet, it uses Clayface. Like, we've just got this renaissance right now for Clayface. I was going to talk about this later. There's a rumor swirling around that they're going to do the Batman Part 2 is supposed to be Matt Hagen, and that the other Clayface is going to be the standalone movie. We know for sure that that's the case, but we don't know if Clayface is actually the villain in the Batman 2. And people were just kind of taking that as a given. And then Gunn sort of slyly said, well, I'm not going to say that's definite because we don't even have a script that we've full on finished and greenlit. But I mean, there's a script being worked on. He has to know who the villain is. So
right,
it may not be Clayface, but I still think it probably is Clayface. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, because he did debunk that rumor, but he also didn't say for sure Clayface is not in the movie. And then after that,
he debunked it as a not confirmation, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be there. I'm sorry, Robert.
Well, and somebody said well, wait a minute, you just said that you haven't seen a draft yet, but you said months ago that Matt Reeves ran some ideas by you. Which is it? And he responded, yes, both of these things are true. He has not seen a draft yet, but he obviously knows stuff that's going to be in the movie.
Okay, see, I thought he was saying they just didn't... I thought he was saying they just didn't have a finalized draft. I didn't know he hadn't even looked at any draft.
This was a later comment.
I see. Let me finish this list. We talked about this already, so I'll breeze over it, but the movie has a few songs. It will mostly be score. This is one of my favorite pieces of news about this. I'm glad to hear that. And I not that a song-heavy Superman movie would necessarily be bad, but it just continues to prove that, like I said, he's willing to get out of his comfort zone with this and not just make it another pat, obvious James Gunn project. 8, I'm curious about. Superman draws from sci-fi and fantasy for its approach, but it's sounding more the way he's talking about it. Gunn says it's fantasy. It's taken from other things like Game of Thrones. I like a more sci-fi bent for my Superman. So I mean, if it's a blend of both, then that's just pretty standard for DC in general. And that's kind of what sets it apart from Marvel. There is magic in Marvel, but it starts at a much more sci-fi place, and the MCU did that also. To varying degrees of success, because it couldn't decide if magic was a thing at all. Really, in my mind, all the way up until WandaVision. But it sounds like this is going to have a little bit more of a fantasy and magic bent, and I'm open to that, but it's going to make me even sadder, Robert, that Man of Steel wasn't what I wanted, because Man of Steel went to the full-on classic science fiction approach, and then just didn't really know what to do with it.
Yep. Yeah, those comments are interesting, because at least most of the characters are in the movie lean very sci-fi, with Green Lantern and Metamorpho and the Engineer. There's not a lot we know about this movie that makes you think supernatural, think magic. But,
that's true.
We also just got Cersei and Creature Commandos right out the gate.
Yeah.
Magic and all that stuff exists. And the Game of Thrones comparison is interesting, because I'm sure a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction is, oh no, it has to be dark and adult. I don't think that's what he means. I just think he means both grounded with characters and well, no, this is just the universe these characters live in. And I like that a lot. That no, these people are used to magic existing. This isn't gonna be the Man of Steel. Oh my God, does Superman exist, and how does the world respond to that? And however you feel about the movie executed that premise, which was what you really wanted. But I appreciate that this isn't going to be a movie about oh my God, there's somebody who can fly. What do we do with that? It's no, this stuff's been around for decades. People are just used to magic and stuff existing. And then with Lex Luthor talking about how he's going to be that mega super genius who can come up with and invent anything to match Superman. Which again, it all comes down to the execution. But I'm cool with that. John, do you have a preference about how sci-fi or fantasy this thing leans?
Well, with Superman, I tend to prefer the more sci-fi stuff. Like Cap and I have talked about it, I really like my adventures with Superman because it leans more into the sci-fi. I don't see Superman as a fantasy set in a fantasy setting. Like obviously, there's elements of it in certain stories, but I tend to lean more into the sci-fi stuff.
If
No, that's
we
fair.
do very much fantasy stuff in that movie, I need a moment where Superman just blurts out, "I hate magic." I really need that to happen.
Well, do you think Mxyzptlk's a villain he's gone up against yet in this universe? Do we think we reference him?
I'm curious to see if he's dealt with very much of his rogues gallery at all. I would imagine that most of the time when we meet somebody, it'll be somebody we haven't seen yet, and because I don't think we know how far into his career he is yet. But again, I'm telling you, I think it's gonna be like the Batman where we're in like maybe year 1 or year 2 or something. But I guess we'll see. And Corn Sweat's not a middle-aged guy,
Right.
you know, like he's young enough that I buy him as a year 1, year 2 Superman. Or at least young enough looking. I don't actually know what his age is. I'm gonna get in trouble here. Somebody's gonna be like, "Well, he's only this much younger than Cavill." I don't know what his age is. I'm just saying he looks the part of a young.
31.
There you go.
Yeah, he's about 10 years younger than Cavill.
I would imagine when Gunn says Game of Thrones, one of the things he's thinking about is politics and espionage, and that you've got a Lex Luthor that sounds very classic from modern Lex. That's probably, you know, 3-dimensional chess playing, and I bet that's part of what he's thinking of when he says that.
And also, what he also could mean with the Game of Thrones comparison, which granted, this isn't what he's saying, it's just a possibility that what he could mean with Game of Thrones is, yes, there's magic, but there are clear rules. It's not just
Right.
anything goes. We can do. I love Harry Potter, but you know that is not a hard magic system universe. They kind of do anything from book to book. Not that there aren't rules to an extent, but with Game of Thrones there is magic, but it is used sparingly.
Yeah, he's not looking at
and used
Lester.
very specific.
This is not gonna be a Lester Superman. Let me get through the rest of these. Future DCU plans heavily depend on the success of this film. Yeah, no kidding. He says.
I'm shocked.
He says, I mean, we're not just gonna keep making movies. There's no chance this movie doesn't make a lot of money though, just because of the hype around it. At least at opening weekend. Now, obviously, if it's like BVS and everybody hates it and it has a giant drop the next weekend, Gunn could be looking at getting his ass fired. That won't happen. Or at least I certainly don't think it will, just given his track record with storytelling. I would be very shocked if this was anything like as polarizing as Man of Steel.
Me too.
6. This is neat. Top Gun Maverick influenced how flight scenes were shot. They actually got up in the air and shot stuff in the sky,
Yeah.
which is very neat.
That's cool.
And so I'm just excited about the practical stuff. 5. Superman's bright costume is supposed to make the hero look less frightening, especially to children. I love this so close to we took Snyder as a partial inspiration, and then you get here and it's like, but we also recognize that Superman wasn't necessarily as hopeful and endearing seeming, and that he might scare children. 4, none of this movie is dedicated to setting up anyone outside the core cast, which might be surprising to hear for some people, just because there are fans that are a little bit concerned about the large cast and that it might look too ensemble, and that you're going to have characters like Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho there. I'm getting ahead of myself with this, but Mr. Terrific is apparently supposed to be the most pivotal of the supporting cast, but that is still very supporting cast. So when this says, when Gunn says, we're not putting these characters here to set them up, that doesn't mean that they can't possibly be thinking out eventual potential spin-offs if any of them are well liked, or if Gunn just really engages with them in a script. Because he says in this, we don't want to just, and he sounds angry. He sounds like it's happened enough in MCU, it pisses him off, and he doesn't want to do it here, or in the previous DCEU. He's like, if we have a character like another superhero, they're not going to be there just to be set up. But just to be set up isn't the same thing as never intending to. So I mean, you can do both.
I mean, I'm sure they have like characters that are like, well, we hope these take off to the point where we can like spin them off, but they're not going to be like, oh, you know, even before the movie comes out, here's your, you know, Hawk Girl movie or Green Lantern movie.
We're not gonna announce like a Ironheart show before we've even seen her debut in a movie. We're not doing stuff like that.
We're not gonna pretend like somebody was a standout when we haven't even seen them yet, and then literally no one found that character compelling on any level. No one.
I think we already know that like Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner's going to be in the Lanterns show, which, you know, just makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sure. It's a
He's the one I'm most curious to see, just because, like, he's been fan casted as a Green Lantern for years, but now he's playing a different Green Lantern.
Well, not just fan casted, but he's voiced Hal Jordan multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, fan casted for like the live action version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's funny that he's actually played Green Lantern more than probably anybody. And then he got Guy Gardner.
No, because I remember when that was announced, I was like, oh, so you just took like the popular casting and just made him a different Green Lantern. Okay.
It makes sense. Well, at first I thought it made sense because he's a little older, and then we found out that they're also casting an older Hal Jordan.
Yes.
So it's
I
still,
mean, I'm fine with it at this point.
it still could have been him, but because it's
They're
Gunn,
so close.
he's wanting to lean toward the man's like comic and sarcastic chops.
Well, I think he's a perfect fit for Guy Gardner, so I have no issues with that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think the argument could potentially be made that Nathan Fillion could possibly play every white male Green Lantern. Like, he's not necessarily bad for any of them, but anyway, 3 other sporting roles.
The first Green Lantern we're meeting is Guy Gardner. That's hilarious.
Mr. Terrific has the biggest role. I talked about that already. He says they're not just cameos; these are the characters. But Mr. Terrific is the main character of those characters. So he's making a big deal out of, look, folks, this is the supporting cast. It's not just quick little cameos. He wouldn't have announced them already if they were. 2, the title was changed from Superman Legacy because it suggested looking back when the movie is about looking forward. We talked about that already earlier. And number 1, Gunn emphasized that neither Clark nor Superman are the Man of Steel's real identity, but rather both are. And I really like his take on this. He says, people said all sorts of different things. They said Clark's the real one. They said Superman's the real one and Clark's the secret identity. But I don't. And it says in my script on the second page, I don't believe either of those things. I don't think anybody knows Superman unless they know both of him. I love that take. I've gotten into arguments over the years with lots of folks about whether a lot of people say like Clark is the real guy and Superman is a mask he wears, and of course different writers have different takes on it. Just the way I generally see that character and what, like, quote unquote my Superman is, I'm kind of like Gunn. I've never fully bought into that. Like how often do you get versions where like with 78, where Clark is real bumbling, and we know that character isn't really like that, and he's having to really play it up, sort of like Bruce pretending to be a playboy. But it's a little bit less like that than Batman, with kind of my perfect vision of Superman, because in my mind, Batman is just straight up the guy in the costume, and Bruce is 100% a face that he puts on. And with Superman, it's a lot more complicated than that. It's sort of like each of them has a bit of the genuine real man in them, and each of them is a mask he's putting on at the same time. I've always kind of seen it like that.
Yeah, the big difference between Superman and Batman, if you're leaning into the Clark Kent bumbling, unassuming persona, is Superman likes being that Clark Kent. Batman doesn't like being playboy Bruce Wayne, at least not typically. Like, he doesn't enjoy that. It's just it's purely an act.
No, that's right. Batman wants to wall himself off from humanity so he can do the job, and Superman recognizes that he has to be human, or he might lose touch with reality, with humanity. But at the same time, doesn't love that he has to try to look and be perfect all the time because he has such a massive responsibility with his power set. And this is why Superman is interesting and can be played as a real flawed human being and isn't a boring, perfect, can do no wrong character like a lot of people misunderstand him as.
Right.
This is not the first time I've given this
boring.
speech.
We should stop making movies about it.
We have a few super chats about the Superman stuff. If you want me to run down this in the first half, or if you want me to wait till the second half.
We're at an hour, and we usually break now, but I figured since this is our Christmas special, we've got guests tonight, we'd probably go a little bit long. And if either of you guys have to go early, feel free to, but I may run late tonight if it's necessary. So I am cool going ahead and taking the next 10 or 15 minutes before we go to the break and hitting those super chats.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts about anything we just read?
I think with a lot of that, I think I'm more excited about it, actually. Like, I do have faith in Gunn that he can make a decent movie. Because, I mean, he's made a number of films that I enjoy now, and so hopefully he can make something that's kind of outside of his realm and make it still good. I will say I am excited for the trailer, to just see what's.
And I meant to mention this earlier. Austin and I are gonna do a response to the trailer tomorrow night, since we don't have it for this show. So we've got a request to do tomorrow night, and then after that, so it'll be late, and most of you guys will have to look at it the day after. But we are going to do its own stream for that. So don't worry, we will talk about it before the year is up.
Well, and to Jason's point, beyond just like agreeing that I think he's a good filmmaker, I think he knows how to make a good movie. What I find most exciting about this and all these comments is because for a lot of people, especially naysayers, oh, James Gunn, he makes raunchy movies, he makes adult movies. How's that guy make Superman? That doesn't make sense. What I find most exciting about it, based on all these comments and previous things he said, is, oh, this guy gets Superman and likes Superman and reads Superman comics. So this is an opportunity, like Jason said, for him to do something different from his typical wheelhouse, which is both exciting and, oh, this guy likes Superman. This is not somebody trying to reinvent Superman or make him cool again. He just likes Superman and gets it. And for me, that's the most exciting thing about this movie.
And it's feeling like the most like a Superman movie that we've gotten in a really long time, which is really exciting for me. And I'm mostly excited because, like, I'll get to watch it, like, when it comes out, you know? And it's like, if it is the next big thing, it's like, that's cool, you know? Because,
you actually get that for your generation,
yeah.
And at the age you are now.
Yeah. So if it is the... I feel like this could be the superhero film of my generation. But...
Which is funny, because Guardians sort of was that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least it is the Superman movie of my generation. So, hopefully, it's a good one and better than Man of Steel.
Yeah, with what this is sounding like, and obviously we don't have the movie yet, but it sounds like more or less what I had wished Man of Steel was going to be, because we had so many years and decades before that of people, again, not really appreciating, like, why Superman is cool and matters and why we really need that character. And then more recently we've had a little bit of like a TV renaissance for this character, where you had this period where nobody seemed to understand or appreciate him, and we had to try to darken it up as much as possible and get it a little bit more cynical. And then you had Supergirl, which for all of its faults, seemed to kind of get that character decently well. And then you get and then you get Superman and Lois, which just nails it.
Yeah.
And Like,
Man, I want to finish that.
I've never finished it. I've got some issues with even what I've seen so far, but just as far as like the attitude and the moral code and everything, it does get that character. And then my adventures with Superman is even a notch above that, and just full on getting that character and making him who he is. And then now it looks like we're finally going to follow that up with the big screen thing that more people will actually go out and see. So, like, there's a part of me that wishes that we'd led with this, but it's also kind of neat that at least fans have been primed for it.
Yeah, I've said for years that Superman's history and relevancy is just as important, if not more so, on TV as it is movies. From George Reeves to Smallville to, like you said, the new CW stuff.
We've had one every decade.
Yeah, and Lois and Clark in the 90s. That's a big deal. And for part of why Superman 78 was as big a hit as it was a lot of people who grew up on the George Reeves show. So if this movie could be for, younger people like and older fans like Superman 78 was, I mean, that's probably wishful thinking, but that is a really exciting prospect.
Okay, we've had one nearly every decade, but like there is not a superhero that has been on TV for live action as much as Superman.
Right, even Batman, where it's like including animation. You have the '60s show and the '90s show, which are both extremely important and effective in pop culture, and then a bunch of other cartoons that fans like us like.
Yeah,
but as far as general like zeitgeist goes, it's really just those two shows for Batman. With Superman, it's a bunch of stuff.
And Superman has been, I guess the reason live action matters is Superman has been for adults more than any other superhero on TV. I think maybe that's the way to put it, right? Because you've got the George Reeves show, and then you've got, I mean, it's goofy, but like then later you get Superboy, and then you get Lois and Clark, and then you get Smallville, and then like it just goes on and on. We've had one nearly every decade, and since the 80s we've had one every decade.
Yeah.
Doc, does this mean that we're gonna have to double down on our Superman reviews next year?
I think maybe we should, or at least I'll be more in the mood for it. Or at the very least, we could do more like mini marathons. We don't have to do entire shows.
Other kinds of Superman.
It might be neat to do a night of like 5 or 6 episodes of the George Reeves show. I've never done that.
I've never seen any of that.
It'd be fun to watch that with you. I love Noel Neal to death.
I'd be down to watch that, and I might actually try to go see this movie in theaters because I'm like really excited for it. So maybe we can do a spoiler cast.
Yes, show up for the spoiler cast, John.
John, I know you don't love seeing movies in theaters, so that is a big bit of praise.
We should try to break
shows
the
your level of
record.
hype. You should go all the way, see it in 3D, see it in D-Box, just go all the way.
Wear a
with it.
Superman costume.
Make it as intense an experience.
Shave your head, look like Lex Luthor, just like go all out.
In a Superman costume.
In a Superman
I just
costume.
run through the theater going, I am the villain of this.
Okay, sorry, we only answered one, and you said a lot of the super chats were about this.
Yeah.
Let's try to knock out at least a couple more before the break.
Okay, and then we also got a comment from Brandon asking if he wants to still come over.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's welcome.
He says, "Hey, Cap, my time freed up. You still okay if I come over?"
Oh, how long ago did he say that?
Like 2 minutes ago.
In the live chat?
Yes.
Hi, Brandon. Yeah, I mean, he's welcome to pop in.
Okay.
We're gonna go for at least another hour or hour and a half. So
Okay.
come on over, Brandon, John. We'll squeeze you in here.
Okay, we got a $2 super chat.
I think I forgot the gong earlier. There we go. All right, go ahead.
I don't even think we were talking about super chat. But
I thought we were.
No, we haven't been.
Okay, well, there's a free gong.
We were just
Go ahead.
talking.
Free gongs.
we
Free gongs
have
this evening.
We have a $2 super chat from Senior Sticks. Is the problem with Superman that he's too big?
That he's too big? He's so big. He's such a big...
I don't know if he means too popular,
Too popular?
too massive as a person. I don't know.
I think they were quoting Dark Knight Returns.
Oh.
Probably not.
Probably not, though. Yeah. That question is so vague, I don't know how to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't even know what he means by the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does it just mean in getting the character right, like that he's too? I mean, I
Well,
could now I'm having to interpret Cedar Sticks again. But if the idea is maybe it's too intimidating, because there's too much pressure to get this character right, and that's why you get a lot of lackluster stories. We're trying to make everybody happy. Like, yeah, sure, that happens.
yeah, and I think part of the intimidation is, oh well, too many people have too many different opinions on Superman. It's like Star Wars, you can't please everybody. I don't think it's as complex as that. If that's where they're coming from, it's look like every Superman movie we've had. These last few decades has been extremely polarizing for a number of reasons. I don't think it's because Superman, he's hard to adapt, or too many people don't like Superman or have conflicted feelings. It's like, nah, just make a great movie.
But I do think the fear of that, like, I think you're right. I think writers should not be intimidated by that. But I think the fear of that, I think there was a perception of that, and I think that has potentially affected the quality of stories with Superman.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, read one more and then we'll go on a break, and we'll pick back up after the break with these, and then we'll let Jason do his segment for this week.
Okay. We got a $5 super chat from Played Out. This Superman movie is the first in a long time I'll watch in the theater, regardless of reviews.
Like John.
Like me.
And Chewbacca's lover put in a $2 super chat. He also says Superman is the only film I'm remotely excited for.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say the only one I'm remotely excited for, but I'm with Jason. I mean, more and more, I'm liking everything I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. And I was already, obviously, interested and glad this was happening, because I've said for years, Gunn should make a Superman movie. But I haven't been, enormously on the hype train yet, just because I have not loved the politics of this. I don't want to listen to the arguments back and forth between people that are upset about the Cavill thing, and I get all of that, but just every time any information comes out about this, there are naysayers picking it apart and trying to figure out why it's terrible, just with the foregone conclusion this is the wrong man for this job. And I don't want to be a fence sitter, but I've been optimistic about Gunn, but also not been wanting not go too far the other way and just assume that everything he'll do is perfect, because I have liked movies he's done in the past. Because I can also see the ways in which he could screw some things up, and so I'm massively seeing both sides of that, and I just want to. In a perfect world, I would just wait till the movie comes out and talk about the movie and not talk about any of the stuff before that. But obviously, folks want to hear us talk about it, and
Superman hallway scene?
It would be impossible for me not to accidentally find out about all of this. People are going to tell me about it. I'm going to find out, so I might as well give you my opinion, because I'm going to have them. But I do that, I will admit, a little bit begrudgingly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's every chance in the world, though, that this movie comes out and it's maybe pretty good, but very ambitious, and maybe doesn't fire on all cylinders the way he's hoping for or attempting. That is a very possible scenario, that the movie comes out and it's okay, but not as great as maybe he's trying to make it. That could happen. And I'm also prepared for the teaser trailer to be underwhelming, because I think the hype is maybe escalated too much for this thing, which is partially on him and Warner Brothers with the teaser for the teaser and all this stuff, which it is fine, because I was just thinking about the Suicide Squad trailers, which I thought were pretty good about what I expected. I was like, yeah, this looks violent, this looks more humorous than we've seen with Suicide Squad before, and now I love that.
But
so
I had to see it 4 times,
things
and I'm hoping I don't have to see Superman 4 times to appreciate it.
I just want to throw that out there, that the trailer could come out and be underwhelming, and that still doesn't mean the movie will be good or bad. It's just a trailer.
Absolutely.
That's
Okay,
important to know.
Guys, I need to go on a break. Give us about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll be right back with the second half of the Captain Logan Show Christmas special. See you in just a little bit. And we're back, and look, a wild Brandon has appeared, although not that wild, because he was nice enough to tell us in the live comments he was... You know, that's like the only way to get my attention during a live show. That was
See,
really...
that's what I was considering. I was like, well, I don't want to send a message on Messenger. He never likes that when I do that while he's on camera.
Well, and like, I don't mean to come off irritated, but like, I just might not even see it.
No, yeah, and that was the other thing. I was like, the surest way to do it. Now, that's not to say is I've popped into live streams before and you've missed my messages, but
well,
having Jason
that's why I got a
you,
mod. Yeah,
That's why I see every message.
Okay, Jason, welcome back to the second half of tonight's edition of the
Yes.
Captain Logan Show. It's going to be a longer one tonight. It looks like, and again, if anybody's got to go early, feel free to. Jason, let's hit the rest of the super chats about James Gunn's Superman.
Okay.
And then we'll let you go ahead and do your segment.
Okay. Yeah.
And
then
then we
we'll
can-
do Q&A.
and then we can
or
hit-
we'll do news articles.
We can hit the rest of my news articles real briefly.
Yep.
Or maybe do some Q&A in between. We'll wing it.
Yeah.
We'll see how long everything takes. But
Sure.
feel free to throw in more questions and topics, folks. And we've got some good pre-written stuff in there too, Jason, so make sure you're keeping track of
Yes.
that. What's up?
if I may, really quickly, I noticed you guys were mine's not a Christmas sweater, but it is an ugly sweater. You were wearing ugly sweaters, so I brought mine.
Very
Thanks,
nice.
man. That's great. That's great. All right, Jason, go ahead and hit the rest of the super chats, man.
Okay, we got a $10 super chat from Teddy. If James Gunn gets fired for this because of how polarizing it is, that's it. We have to admit only Richard Donner can make a universally praised live-action Superman movie.
And then how much is he going to wish he started with any other character?
Yeah.
If that happened. But like with the sheer amount of like projects they're greenlighting and like money they're paying him, it would be so insane if that happened.
Yeah.
It'd just be the craziest thing in the world. And then you also look at how Snyder somehow got the keys to the kingdom with projects that weren't really like massively well received or made a lot of money at the box office. Like I still to this day do not understand how Snyder gets that job after Watchmen. Because as much as I love Watchmen, it's not like it massively performed or anything. And that was the last thing he made for them.
I guess the difference is with Snyder, whether you like Man of Steel or not, is you had Christopher Nolan and Goyer involved, carrying over from the Dark Knight trilogy. Snyder was really just picked as the guy to direct the thing. Because he was, at the time, regardless of Watchmen maybe underperforming, still known for these really big, kind of modern, epic type of movies. And then Man of Steel does pretty good, and then for some reason he's put in charge for the whole shared universe after that. That's what's more perplexing to me.
You're right. That is the
Technical
strangest
thing.
part, because DC complained that it only made $850. Or at least that's my recollection, is that they were expecting it to break $1 billion and it only did $850, and then they went, "We're really disappointed in these numbers. Here, be the showrunner of the whole universe." I don't understand that.
Are you thinking of BVS? Because I thought Man of Steel made less than that. I could be wrong.
No, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, and this is so many years ago, I might be completely off base, but that's just, that's what I remember from that weekend, was it did, I thought, big guns, and they went, that's not really what we thought it was going to do.
Yeah, well, but with Man of Steel, at least, like, that was a relatively normal budget movie. They didn't dump $300 million into it, which they did with BVS. And with James Gunn's Superman, I also don't think, like, guys, this movie doesn't need to make $1 billion. This movie's not a failure if it doesn't make $1 billion. As long as the budget is under $200 million, it'll be fine.
No,
potentially.
Especially because people could be a little bit apprehensive, given at least some members of an audience that might go to this because it looks fun might still be somewhat apprehensive about it, given the track record of DC lately, if they've not gotten the memo or if they just don't trust Gunn, etc. So I don't think you're going to be in the hype around this. I don't think you're going to be in a Batman Begins situation where that was a great movie that did just okay and then Dark Knight lit up the universe. but I do think it could be like half of that. I do think it could be that comes out and it doesn't quite break $1 billion, but it's beloved, and then the next 3 do, of like whatever they make.
Yeah, for sure. And if this movie isn't beloved, if it is polarizing again, it's also important to note that if we're just talking standalone Superman movies, how many have we had in the last 30 years? We've had Superman Returns and Man of Steel. 2 extremely divisive movies for very different reasons. I don't look at to that comment earlier. If this movie doesn't please everybody or is just okay or whatever, it doesn't mean that Superman's filmable. Oh, this just can't work as a movie. We haven't tried that many times because the studio generally is very apprehensive and very picky. And of course, legendarily. In the 90s, we saw how Tim Burton's Vision turned out and didn't end up happening because it was going to be so weird and different.
I also think you should always look at it relative to the box office. If you spent $200 million on a movie and it did 6, it's a rousing success. I don't care what the projections are. So I was wrong about the 850 I remembered with Man of Steel. It was 670, and DC went, yeah, we thought it would do better than that. I remember them coming out vocally complaining about that.
Because their last 2 Batman movies made $1 billion.
Yeah.
And
but again, 670 on a $250 million budget, it did fine. It did better than fine. Now, I don't know what the advertising was, but that's not on the filmmaker. If they spend too much money on advertising and the movie you made can't make it back, you cannot blame the guy that made it. I don't think. The other thing I was going to say is, how amusing will it be if Supergirl makes a lot more money than Superman?
That'd be crazy.
I don't see that happening, but what if people are a little bit trepidatious about it, and then the word of mouth is great, and then people really like it, especially watching it on streaming later, and then they put out Supergirl, and everybody goes, I gotta see that. That Superman movie was great. That might be amusing. We thought that was supposed to be the very next movie coming out. Now there is something in between that just got a date, but we've not been told which of them it is yet. So one of the projects, probably something we already know about, has now been sandwiched in between them.
Interesting.
Clayface.
No, it's not Clayface. I think Clayface has a 2026 release date.
Okay.
Yeah. I would predict it would be maybe something that's more of a modest budget, like a Sergeant Rock that we've been hearing about recently. I don't think, especially with the filmmaker who may be attached, I don't think that's going to be a $200 million movie. So I would guess it'd be something in that vein.
Okay, let's get rolling through this a little quicker.
Okay. We got a $5 super chat from Teddy.
Thanks, Teddy.
Wait, I just thought of something. Batman can't be a part of this universe. Batman hates guns. And the CEO of the studio is named Gunn. ...
See, I almost made a joke about that earlier, Jason, when you said that's a great comment. Thank you, Teddy. He's always very clever. Earlier, Jason, when you said you had faith in Gunn, I was like, okay, so that means that Jason is not for gun control. He doesn't think we need to get Gunn off the streets.
Yeah.
He's got faith in. He's fine with Gunn.
Well, I like how you said that the Dark Knight lit up the universe. Just seems oxymoronic there.
It's just how I talk, Brandon. Anyway, what else do we have about this?
Can we get I like Gunn trending? Can we start?
I like Gunn.
Oh, wow.
I have faith in
No.
hashtag I have faith in Gunn.
Or anti-gun control shirts, but with 2 N's. I'm gonna get that going. I'm gonna get a thing that just looks massively controversial.
I think the timing is really bad on that right now, considering the last couple of days, but...
We got a $5 super chat from Dan Schneider. I'm excited just based on how Gunn talks about comics. He's constantly referencing runs that are influencing him and obscure deep pulls too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean that's just consistent with the way he's always been, going all the way back to Guardians.
Yeah.
Remember when Warner Brothers and Tim Burton made a really big deal out of, I read The Killing Joke.
Yeah.
I love The Killing Joke. See, I know comics.
Meanwhile, he
I still
comes
don't
in.
believe him when he said he read it.
Meanwhile,
I believe he looked at the pictures. I'll give him that.
Meanwhile, Gunn
I
comes
believe
in.
He looked at a picture.
Gunn comes in, makes a Suicide Squad movie, and proves that he actually, read the Ostrander run. And then John, if you asked Tim Burton about John Ostrander, he'd go, "Who?"
I want to convince Tim Burton that John Ostrander is a comic book character, not a comic book writer, and just see if he could find him in a comic. So he'd actually have to read comics.
He's paging through stuff trying to find him. Like, I cannot find this John Ostrander person.
I will find him.
I will find him. Okay. Anything else, Jason?
Tim Burton's the one who's always like saying all the time, right?
Tim Burton is the worst director in history at making movie commentaries.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Really bad at it. Go listen to a Tim Burton commentary if you're interested in a nap.
I mean, I thought Batman Returns was a bad movie. Batman Returns with the commentary on is like the worst Batman movie ever made.
Oh no! If that doesn't have Danny DeVito on it, what were they thinking?
That's a pretty scorching review.
They were both just Tim Burton sitting in a room by himself, and I'm like, why wouldn't you give him somebody to bounce off of? The man doesn't speak off the cuff well. We all know that. He knows that. How did he agree to do it? How does Tim Burton sit in the booth and go, "Sure, I'll talk alone for 2 hours"? The man can't put a sentence together in front of people. It's not his forte. Tim Burton is a legend at his craft. You couldn't pay me enough to go to a stand-up routine by Tim Burton.
Oh boy.
I will, in fact, by the way, be doing the 89 Tim Burton commentary on one of my 89
Yes.
Batman commentaries. That is the plan. I will do one of them. Brandon, are you aware of this project?
Which project?
Did I tell you about this?
I don't know.
And for folks that haven't heard about this yet, I'll just announce it again real quick. But starting at the beginning of next year, and I'm going to do this over the span of 2 years,
Okay.
is my plan anyway. It will be exclusive Patreon content after the fact, but people will be able to watch it as I'm broadcasting it. I will make it public to the channel, but then
Okay.
afterwards you have to go to Patreon to
for
get it. And on a mostly weekly basis, I'm going to be doing 89 Batman 89 commentaries.
Okay.
Which will get me to an even 100, because I already have 11 commentaries on that movie.
Okay.
And so I will
That's
have
fascinating.
100 commentaries on the same movie.
Well, that's so bizarre. But so you at the same time,
It's going to be a wild social experiment.
I assume that.
And you're welcome to come on for one.
Well,
I'm gonna
this is what I was
occasionally need
assume
people to
you will
talk to.
invite me for one or two, if not more, potentially.
I will.
And that you already have 11 of them is insane.
Yeah, we did a
This is
week of
just
them.
More of that.
We did a week of them at one point. We did a quote-along commentary, but I think we can do it better, and so I'm thinking about doing a second quote-along commentary.
You will also have to do one on your 89th birthday. Just saying.
That's a good idea. We'll do one more, and I'll have 101 Batman 89 commentaries.
You know, when I was a kid, Batman 89.
Okay, so I'm playing a version of me at 88 years old, and I'm not even that decrepit. So one more year, and I'm that decrepit.
Okay, that's hilarious. Now that
By the way, no one knew about that, but now they do.
I keep getting this from people. Dan Schneider says, "I hope your 89 project doesn't ruin that movie for you." I submit I don't think it's possible. I think I am immune to seeing that movie too many times. Robert, you're going to come on for one, right?
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
You got to do it. Robert and I have watched Batman Forever together.
We have. You also
privately.
need John on one.
have you
'cause-
watched
My
Batman
favorite-
Forever together forever?
Together Forever?
My favorite
Oh yeah,
comment.
no, that's what you do after 89. Is then you're forced to then do Batman Forever every week until you're dead, because it's forever.
So you do Batman 89 times, Batman 66 times, Batman Forever.
And Batman Returns once. came back.
You came back.
That's it.
And did Batman Returns, and then you just have another kid and then let them do a commentary on Batman Begins.
No, Batman
because
Begins.
They've beginned.
Okay, that's not bad. I was gonna suggest you just watch the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with that.
It's the beginning of
riddle me
Batman
this,
Begins.
Cap.
Dark Knight. It's 3 a.m. All the lights are off.
Yeah. Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises.
You're...
You wake up immediately. You're watching that movie.
Oh, I thought Dark Knight Rises. You're just like.
No, for Rises,
you're
you
just
have
like
to
on a
start the
high
commentary by
building or
waking
something.
Sorry, John. What?
You have to start the Rises commentary by literally waking up on stream.
Yeah, that's good. Or you're suspended in midair.
Yeah.
Rising. You start at the ground, end up at the top at the end of the movie.
Dan's dead. By the time his 89 commentary project is over, Cap will be sleeping in a vampire casket. I think it's more likely that I'll be sleeping upside down, and you'll be wondering if I'm exercising or sleeping. Well, one of those 89 commentaries will be another debate about that, but for the entire 2 hours.
Say, can you do a commentary while hanging upside down?
Not the whole time. I don't think I can
Part
do
of it?
that. We'll work on it.
Riddle me this, Cap.
Yeah.
89 minutes of it?
We'll get an inversion table.
Do you do 66 commentaries for the 66 movie, or do you do 66 commentaries on different episodes of that show?
Oh, that's better. Sure.
Mm.
Did that have 66 episodes?
Did it?
I'm sure it must have
I
gotten
don't
close.
actually know the episode
20
count, but it was
episodes.
3 seasons, and TOS had 79, so it must have gotten past 66.
120.
I would think.
Yeah, and because they're okay, so they took
Almost exactly.
so they took the hour breakdown, and for their episode order, they considered 2 episodes 1 episode if they had 120. That makes sense. Anyway, sorry. Do we have any more super chats?
We have one more.
Okay, let's do that, and then we will give the floor to Jason.
$5 for
Sorry,
from
give me 1 second.
$5 from Bob the Hun. With all the hype, if this movie sucks, it will be more disappointing than even the worst films we've had. It would be the nail in the coffin.
The nail in the coffin for DC in the last decade, or a nail in the coffin for superhero movies? Because I think the pressure is on to a degree, and John and Robert, tell me if you agree with this. I think the pressure is kind of on with this movie for overall interest in the genre right now, because MCU has not had offerings people have liked very much, save Deadpool. Like I think that does hurt the genre a little bit. I mean, obviously, when the next great thing comes out, people will come back for it. But if this really sucks, if everybody hates it, I don't think that'll happen. But if everybody hates it, I think you're going to have a good solid year or two of we're back massively wall-to-wall to superhero fatigue, genre's dead, everybody's done with it. Like, am I right about this?
Yes. I think Superman and to some degree Fantastic Four are like
Yes.
the big ones that are kind of going to be indicative of where the genre is going forward. I think DC has a bit of a safety net just because their last few, the Batman was well liked for the most part. Peacemaker was pretty well received. The Suicide Squad was pretty well received. The Penguin, everybody loved the Penguin. I don't know what the general reception to Creature Commandos is so far, but like they built a small safety net, but not enough if like Superman was.
And Gunn has never made an especially polarizing mainstream superhero movie. Like, there are people that don't love his stuff. You never see a Gunn movie less than, like, I'm just going to throw out a number because I don't pay that much attention, but probably less than 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if you ever see that.
Yeah, at least not in a
like all of his like main superhero movies. So, like at this point, I have confidence in the movie. I think outside of just weirdos on the internet, people are pretty confident this movie's gonna be pretty good.
I think worst case scenario the movie's just okay.
Yep.
And then but there's still gonna be a couple DC movies, and development or even filming by that point, so those are going to come out regardless. And I'm just not as doom and gloom about all this stuff, because even if this movie is somehow terrible and a horrible misfire and a horrible failure, the Batman 2 is probably still going to happen, and that will still have hype behind it.
Are you sure that? Are you sure about that? That if some movies have already been made, they would come out even if this was like a horrible flop? Because I mean, this is Warner Brothers.
We are talking about Mr. Zaslav.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's for sure. But I mean, I'm assuming that Supergirl will be filming by that point. And I mean, if they like how that's going, they're not. I don't think they're just going to pull the plug on it. The difference between that and something like Batgirl, whether that movie could have turned out to be good or not, we haven't seen it. That was always a streaming movie, in the first place, that had different people and projections behind it. And of course, that was in a very specific situation when it was just a tax write-off. So that I don't know. We'll see. And of course, with the Batman 2, that's Batman, so they're not going to be quick to cancel that. And I don't know. We've been through this before. Batman and Robin killed the franchise, and then we had a Batman movie less than a decade later. So even worst case scenario, I'm not like, oh, the superhero genre, it's dead, it's over forever. Like, no, of course not. It'll take a few years to reset.
Dan Sten said DC would just go back to Batman. He's only partially right.
Yeah.
What Warner's tends to do, maybe this is different under Mr. Zaslav, but what Warner's tends to do is they it's very memorable. He sounds like a supervillain, and he kind of is one. So
yeah.
it's perfectly
tax write-offs.
Yeah. He's
that's a superpower.
That's a superpower. Yeah. But what Warner has historically done is they make Batman movies, and then they adapt obscure, darker, rated R projects nobody's ever heard of. That's what they tend to do. So they'll do a little bit of that, but they won't make a bunch of family movies.
Which is all the more reason that Sergeant Rock, Clayface, Swamp Thing, those could all still happen.
That's true.
Which have all been talked about.
Because, and maybe this is part of the strategy, Robert, a lot of the things they've greenlit are things that could stand alone really easily, that don't have to be part of any continuity at all. They're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And all presumably movies that could be made for under $100 million. And I mean, granted, so was Batgirl, but still, that was a very specific situation.
Yeah, but Zaslav is the greatest mystery of the last 50 years of Hollywood. I'll never understand the man. How he axed the Wile E. Coyote movie, but kept the Day the Earth Blew Up movie, and the trailer for that came out last week. And I'm sorry, guys, that doesn't look like what I want from Looney Tunes. Maybe it'll turn out okay, but like it's the sort of like exaggerated like I almost want to say like mean-spirited, but that's not fair. Sort of animated faces that you get with Nickelodeon. We recently Disney made a Mickey Mouse cartoon that sort of looks like that. The cartoon's okay, I just don't like the look of it. But there's immediately a lot of kind of like, gross jokes and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's not really what I want from Looney Tunes. Huh. And even if this movie is good, why couldn't we have gotten the Wile E. Coyote movie? And then also, isn't it bizarre that Gunn wrote that? At least co-wrote that. Yeah. And then somehow Gunn, getting the job he got, still had to sit back and let that get shelved. It's so strange. I'll never understand that.
I hadn't heard.
Yeah, it sucks. That's probably just the compromise of the business. He probably doesn't get this job being the head of everything if he doesn't budge on some of that stuff. It is what it is.
So, Jason.
Yes.
We're gonna switch gears now.
Yeah.
And give you the floor. It's time for our Next Generation segment.
Yep.
And Jason has a weirdly roundabout, almost Christmas-related topic that only half of us currently in the room in the call will remotely understand or appreciate. But go ahead. But go ahead, Jason.
So I wanted to do something kind of Christmas-related because it's it's Christmas time.
And we just go nuts at Christmas time.
Yes, exactly. Only two of us got that joke. And this is, of course, the Captain Logan Show Christmas Special 2024. So, I decided to do something kind of Christmassy. I originally wanted to do something more like actual, like, you know, this is Christmas. But then I thought of this idea, and it's like, this was easier to make. So, we're gonna do this. This is a list. This is a top 5 Power Ranger seasons that have both great Red and Green Rangers. And it's basically the Power Ranger seasons that have the best chemistry between those two Rangers and just have both good Red and Green Rangers, and kind of, you know, my favorites that both have those.
I love how oddly specific that is.
I know.
Did you manage to also get 5 seasons that have a Christmas episode?
No.
Okay.
No. But I will say there's a little bit of a contrast between the two colors throughout Power Rangers, because there's very much like a type of character that each color tends to be in Power Rangers. So obviously Red is usually a more leader type, more of a
responsible, mature.
Yeah, responsible, like more strict sometimes, brave kind of thing. And then usually now Green is more of a comedic character.
Yeah, with Tommy it was the loner, but that kind of just became, you know, the kind of jaded loner, could go either way. You know how dark is he going to be kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
But then that turned into just the Sixth Ranger, whatever that color is going to be.
Yeah, and sometimes it can get kind of fun seeing the differences between the Red Rangers and the Green Rangers. Weirdly enough. So I'm gonna count down my my 5 favorite Power Ranger seasons that have both great Red and Green Rangers. Okay.
Printed on a T-shirt, just rolls off the tongue.
My number 5 is Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue with Carter as the Red Ranger and Joel is the Green Ranger. Joel is one of my favorite Green Rangers. He's the black guy with the hat.
Is that the black guy with the hat?
Yeah,
that guy's
he's the
great.
black guy with the hat, and he's great.
I haven't seen a lot of that show.
Lightspeed Rescue is one of my favorite Power Ranger shows, and this is very much, I really like the shows where at the beginning you've got Rangers who really don't really want to do the job, but they still feel inclined to. And then they, get more into it as the show progresses, which I really like, and that is something that Joel has in Lightspeed Rescue.
So they're reluctant superheroes.
Yeah, and so
and that becomes a trend later. SPD is like that.
Yeah, and that's why I really like SPD. And so the big difference between Carter and Joel is Carter is, very, I guess, brave. That kind of figure where he'll do really anything to save people, right? And Joel just kind of wants to hang out and do whatever. He doesn't really want to be a hero.
Does
right?
he morph while he's wearing the hat, or does he take the hat off
He
first?
takes the hat off, I think.
Because if he morphs while he's wearing it, you have to assume that somehow magically the hat is inside the helmet.
There's got to be a point. There's got to be a point where a place somewhere in the show where
he's still got it on.
He's still got it on. I don't remember.
What's the morphing call for that show?
Oh crap! I actually don't know that.
I can't remember. Anyway, whatever.
Morphing. I have a hard time with morphing calls because you see it every episode, but then you just forget it. So I think it might just be Lightspeed Rescue.
Or is it Go Lightspeed?
I think it is just Lightspeed Rescue.
I think they just say Lightspeed Rescue. I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was something Lightspeed, but I haven't seen it in so long, and I've only seen a couple episodes. So.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that season in so long, but I like the costumes in that.
Yeah, they're good costumes, and it's a great morphing sequence with the the shape that they go into. That's great.
Yeah, no, it is just Lightspeed Rescue.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. My number 4 is Power Rangers RPM.
So you guys, give me just a minute. I'll be right back.
We get more into a. This is probably the most comedic Green Ranger that we have in Ziggy. He's definitely the comedic one, and he's played as sort of a 6th Ranger character at the beginning, but like, I don't know, he becomes a Ranger like 10 episodes in. He's barely a 6th Ranger. Yeah, this is Scott Truman. Scott as the Red Ranger, and Ziggy is the Green Ranger in this. And I actually like Scott a lot. He's not really, as far as I remember, he doesn't get as much screen time in the show as I'd like him to get, because it's just such a like character focused show and such more of a like drama type show. But
So who do they focus on?
the Black Ranger
Oh.
mostly.
Yeah, that show is weird because it's, I think, the only one where the Black Ranger is kind of the protagonist.
But he's not the leader of the team.
Right, he's not the leader, but he's arguably the main character. It's very strange,
Yeah, it is very strange, but it's
and I love that series. Like, that might be it. That's
it's
probably
one of
my
my
second.
favorites. It might be my second favorite. But yeah, Ziggy has always been one of my favorite Power Rangers, and Scott is great as well. I still have never seen the RPM and Samurai crossover movie. I've still never seen it. Where
I haven't either because I didn't like what I saw of Samurai, so I'm scared that
they
it'll, like,
just
go
bring in
RPM.
Scott for like no reason, and he's
It's a
just
shame.
there.
I
don't-
like Scott, but he's not my favorite RPM Ranger.
Right, he's not. And then my number 3, this is more of a weirder one, as far as, you know, our Red Ranger is not really the leader in this one. My number 3 is Time Force.
Time Force? Yeah, that's what I
With,
figured.
Wes is the Red Ranger and Trip is the Green Ranger. This is more of a, as far as this, like, the, like, relationship between these two characters, they're both a lot more, like, and this team in general, is a lot more, like, childish, I would say, especially Wes, but, Wes and Trip both, are very, a lot more, you know, playful and, will, you know, crack more jokes and are younger Power Rangers, at least they seem to be. Obviously, you know, in Mighty Morphin it's teenagers, but, you know.
Wes has definitely played like the little brother of the team. Not
Yeah.
Wes, Trip. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
I like Trip because he has an owl, so...
So you're saying some seasons it's like man-children with attitude? Is that what you're saying?
Some seasons it's like half of the team is like more like early 20s, but then like the other half of the team is like older, like, or at least more mature. I'm not actually sure what how Time Force goes with that, but
I'm
I
put that on
always saw
t-shirt.
them as like mid-20s. It's just you have the couple of immature
more immature characters, yeah.
characters, and with Wes, it's more that's his character.
But I have always
Well,
liked.
and they're in kind of a military, so like they can't
Yeah.
be that young.
Yeah, that's true. But I have always liked the dynamic with that team in general, where they did a really good job at balancing the more immature characters with the more mature characters. And Wes and Trip are both more of the immature characters. And I don't know, I always liked Trip. He's cool.
I mean, that's my favorite Power Rangers in this season. So, disagreements for me.
Time Force is great. I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't watched through it in a while, but yeah, I do really like it. And then number 2, I gotta go for it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with Jason and Tommy. it's just kind of the classic Power Rangers dynamic.
Which still could have been so much more interesting.
Yes, it really could have.
They only fight about anything when they're under a spell.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, we remember that show as these guys are vying for leadership. That never happens.
No, not really.
We can't actually show attitude in our show about teenagers with attitude.
Right.
It's sort of like the Roddenberry TNG problem. It's like nobody's allowed to have any conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But number 2.
Jason and Tommy are obviously like the originals. Jason, will always be like the classic Red Ranger, and Tommy definitely set a standard for Sixth Rangers, being like more apart from the rest of the group, and bringing their own character, and being completely different.
And I think they're also both tied for consummate leader in building the foundation for the rest of it, because once you get to Zeo, Tommy is just straight up unabashedly the leader of that team. And then
he's the leader in season 3, but
then that's
that
true
happens
too.
to Jason.
No, you're right. That happens as soon as Rocky comes in. He's certainly not the leader of that team.
Yeah.
And then when Jason comes back, it's interesting because you then flip the Sixth Ranger dynamics. So when you've got Jason leading the team and Tommy is that like in and out kind of wild card, and then you get to Zeo, and now Jason is that wild card.
Yeah,
and even more wild cardy, to be fair.
I think so,
because he's not even always around. He'll just like randomly show up.
Yeah,
and with with Mighty Morphin, the only reason that Tommy gets wild cardy is because his powers are constantly waning.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's true.
All the soap opera about that character is, will he get to still keep being a Power Ranger? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
Until you get to the stupid Dear John letter with Kimberly. But before that, all the soap opera is just that.
That's all he cares about is being a Power Ranger. That's all any of them care about.
That's all I care
feels
about.
like the stakes are high.
This is why I prefer more,
That's how high the stakes are.
More conflict in a Power Ranger show where it's like, oh, do I really want to be a Power Ranger, well,
that's how you get to, I gotta say this real quick. You get the Green Candle, where Brandon's making fun of stakes. You get the Green Candle, where in the Sentai, it's when this candle gets to, when the wick totally burns out, the Green Ranger is dead. Okay, dead.
Wow.
DEA dead. In Power Rangers, it's he don't get to be a Power Ranger anymore. Aw shucks.
Gotcha.
We're never afraid that Tommy's going to die.
And that leads us into my number 1, which is Power Rangers SPD.
SPD.
With Jack, who is my favorite Red Ranger of all time, and Bridge, who is probably my favorite Green Ranger. I don't know. I mean, he's definitely a different... If you're talking about, like, favorite Green Rangers, I don't know if Tommy counts. Because, like, he's more of a Sixth Ranger than that, like, the funny guy. But, I don't know. Bridge is hilarious. And it is probably some of the best, like, Ranger humor, in the show. Like, the show as a whole, is in that season, I feel like. And he's just weird, and I can't remember his name right now. But that actor plays him really well.
Jason's brother Freddie used to be so obsessed with Bridge, he insisted people call him that. It was like a 2-month period where Freddie would only be referred to as Bridge.
That was the funniest thing ever.
But Jason, aren't you a huge fan of the Red Ranger at large? Like, just the Red Ranger,
yes.
Just as the Red Ranger, you're a big fan, right?
Yes.
If I remember correctly, you once set up Heroes of the Grid scenario with just Red Rangers.
Yeah.
That's not just because he likes the color, it's because the dynamic in that game, like, Red Rangers are
cool,
really, really powerful, throw a lot of dice.
Yeah.
It's just kind of nice putting them all together. Reds play really well together. I mean, like, I'm not a huge Pink Ranger fan overall, but my favorite thing to do in the game is an all-pink game, because they play really well together.
Yeah.
So
The
It's not special.
but yeah,
'Cause you gotta be careful about too much peak energy.
oh my gosh, when I was talking about more conflict in a Power Rangers show, I think Jack is really a really good example of that. When I first watched that show, I was like, wow, this actually kind of feels like a show, and not a Power Rangers show. So it's like, he's thrown into the scenario where he's a leader, and 5 days ago he was sitting in a jail cell, right? And so that's it's kind of actual and it's an actual scenario that you actually think about, which is cool for Power Rangers because you don't really get that in Mighty Morphin.
Watch SPD and then watch Stargate Atlantis. Oddly similar shows.
Still never seen Atlantis.
You should. It's great.
I've only
That's
seen
where Jason
SB1.
Momoa got to start.
Oh, really?
Yes,
He's in
he
that show.
played an Atlantean, and then he played Aquaman.
Really?
Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, as soon as he got that role, I was laughing hysterically. I was like, I literally think Jason Momoa got this job because he is the most qualified person on the planet. He has once played an Atlantean.
That's hilarious.
Okay, we're already at 2 hours. We're doing a longer show tonight. We got to start taking some Q&A.
And I'm done with my. I will say, the one thing that did not make my list was
well, lots of things didn't make your list.
Yeah, but the one big thing that I want to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
Was Zeo.
Yeah.
With
Adam,
Jason and Tommy and Adam. But I just didn't think they had as much stuff together.
They don't.
No,
you're right. There's not a big dynamic there.
There's not a big dynamic there.
But it would have been cool if you could have done it, because then it would have gotten Tommy there as a Red Ranger and a Green Ranger.
Yeah. That was the other reason why I didn't do it, just because, Tommy twice.
Yeah.
I've already talked about this character, But yeah.
It's so hard to stay away from that in Power Rangers. Tommy was almost enough colors to be his own 5-man team. If only Tommy had been one more color.
Yeah.
You could do a season with Tommies from different universes and make just the Tommy Power Ranger team.
Yeah.
You'd have, they'd all be male. You wouldn't have any female colors, but you would have a pink or a yellow. But you'd have a red, a black, a green, and a, what am I missing?
A leather jacket.
Would it be another red? Was he?
It's another red.
Oh, I guess he's just. Yeah, I keep thinking he's 4 colors. He's 4 Rangers, but he's not 4 colors, is he?
He's white. Green,
Oh, white. I wasn't thinking about white. I'm stupid. See, I didn't say white. There you go.
Green, black, red.
There you go. Well, then you'd end up. Yeah, and that's a weird color spectrum because you don't usually see.
Yeah.
White and green at the same time.
Or
did they have
the only time I
Did Alien Rangers have a Green Ranger, or is that a Black? No, it's a Black Ranger.
The only time I'm thinking is and John, correct me if you think of another one. Jungle Fury has technically a Green Ranger and technically a White Ranger, but I'm trying to.
Well, Dino Charge probably does at some point, because by the end of that show they have 15 colors.
There's a freaking Gray Ranger in that.
Yeah, there's a Brown Ranger in that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was just thinking to myself, I can maybe count on one hand the number of White Rangers that I know. That seems like a really rare one. But I also don't know a lot of the more modern stuff.
Yeah. And, SPD, Sam...
How many Whites are there? 3 or 4? Because you got Mighty Morphin, you got Alien, and then you got Udana. I can't think of another one.
Dino Thunder.
Dino Thunder White. I'm stupid. And that was fun because you got Evil White when Tommy was Evil Green, and then becomes White later. That's great.
But yeah, have you ever read Soul of the Dragon?
Yes. It's been a long time.
That's a cool book because of, because you get to see all 5 of them on a page.
I forgot about that.
And that's pretty cool.
And do that again.
They added Soul of the Dragon Tommy to the phone game, and you can
Just in his jacket?
and when you and his like beard, and when you do different attacks, he like brings out different versions of himself. It's really cool. But yeah.
So sort of like the Master Morpher?
Sort of. But yeah, he can turn into Turbo Red and Mighty Morphin White and whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just really limited Megaforce.
Yeah, really limited.
Okay,
I'm the Tommy Ranger.
So
Look at
we
me.
might get to a few more news things a little bit later if we have time. I want to make sure that we get some Q&A in.
Yeah, and ask any questions, chat.
So folks, so that's what I was going to say. Throw out questions either in or topics, and they don't have to be Christmas related, but they can be holiday things. In the regular chat at Jason at Video Game Secrets, or leave a super chat. And we've already had some super chats tonight. So here in a little bit, actually, Jason, I'm going to have you tally up and figure out who is winning so far. If you could do that.
Oh, yes.
Because top super chatter tonight, in case you missed the memo, gets to choose the second subject next year for the Superhero Rewind commentary project. Austin and I have kind of a big heavy hitter to open the year with, and the very next one we're going to let tonight's top super chatter pick. So you still have some time to leave super chats if you're
Our
so
winner
inclined
right now,
and try to win
yeah,
that.
the person in front right now is Teddy is Teddy.
And the person behind him, are they trailing by very much? Who's in second place?
Second place is Senior Sticks.
Okay, cool. So they're vying for it right now.
Yeah.
But feel free to, like I said, leave super chats or regular questions,
Yeah.
and we'll do some pre-written stuff. We got quite a bit at the beginning of the show. So, Jason, throw anything at us,
Okay.
and we'll see if more things come in.
I
as
will
we
ask
go.
us, and then I will go upstairs for a minute, and then I will come back.
Did you say Alaska?
Yes.
Oh,
North to Alaska.
I don't know why.
I'll ask this.
I don't really know why you said that.
Goofster123. With the Superman trailer imminent, it got me thinking about superhero movie scores. Should new iterations have their own themes rather than harkening back?
Okay, so I want to do a whole show on this. I actually almost made this the lead-in topic for tonight before I realized just how much James Gunn Superman that was going to be to talk about. So, and Jason's leaving as we're discussing this, and I kind of want him on this. So why'd you do that, dude? Because I kind of want you in. You should have asked a more superfluous question.
Well, I thought you would talk about this for a minute, so.
He wants you to talk about it with him.
Did you see that? He's banking on my being so long-winded that he's not going to miss anything of importance by the time he gets back. I'm going to let one of these guys talk about this first. John, we haven't heard from you in a while. What is your broad general take on this?
My broad general take is for the main theme, it should be something completely different to stand on its own. It's fine if you reference the score. It's kind of like, Spider-Man Homecoming references the 60s theme. And I think it's in the credits, I can't remember now. But for the main, theme that you associate with the character, it should be something new.
And so, does it matter to you what it is, John? Because for me, it's a little bit more case by case. I almost have to have you throw a property at me first. And I realized this, when we were talking about this the other day, Jason and I, when that poster dropped with that music, where at first I went, I don't like when we ever do that. And then I started thinking of examples where I do like it, because Jason threw out, Godzilla -1. And I was like, wow, it's kind of nice when they do it there, and we don't always go to the Godzilla theme. And then I just kept thinking of things where, like
The big question is-
007, it always has to be that theme, even if you, full-on reboot. So it is different with different things for me. It's case by case.
Which ones feel like fan service, right? Because it's like, but also,
when you say fan service, you mean when does it feel like you're just coasting on it?
People
pandering?
liking that theme and being like, oh hey, I know that,
and then it gives it more credibility, even if there's not any real credibility in the way you're writing the character or anything.
Yeah. When is it that if you ever bring back the Ghostbusters theme in a newer Ghostbusters movie, is that fan service, or is that just it's a Ghostbuster movie, right?
Yeah, like 16 sucks, but I didn't expect them to not use the Ghostbusters theme.
Right.
Even though it's a full-on reboot. And then, like, Brandon, if you straight up completely reboot Star Trek from the ground up, you still expect right? Like,
well, I mean, if you look at, I was actually
You're
going
still
to
gonna
cite
want
Star
that.
Trek as an example because even in the 09 stuff, at the end they pay homage. They stick the theme right in there.
But not only that, throughout that you still like Giacchino's got his own theme, but you still in a couple places have the typical and
Oh, yeah, of course.
and also that's a but I didn't want to necessarily cite that, Brandon. I meant like a full-on reboot because that thing gets to have its cake and eat it too by soft rebooting out of original continuity. So
very
it's
true.
saying we're not a complete straight-up reboot, even though it sort of is. But I'm saying even if you, this is just my opinion, even if you flat out from the ground up rebooted Star Trek, I would still expect that theme. But I don't want to do it with Superman. Why?
I mean,
It's kinda
I might
hard to
I might
explain, but I
expect
do
it
have
with Star
that.
Trek too, but also I'd like a distinct Star Trek theme that's epic, like Next Gen was, you know. But I mean, and Next Gen was also using the theme from the movie, so I guess it was it itself was reusing. That.
But even though it's not, but here's the thing: I'm not talking about the TOS theme. I'm talking about just the opening few notes. I'm just like, because TOS and TNG and they always give you that, even if they have their own theme.
And that's a phraseology that it's very Star Trek. So I mean, I guess it's
like
totally
you have to have
acceptable
that,
because of
except DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise don't have it. So
No.
we get really, and nobody's expecting it there, and it's hardly ever referenced even in their scores.
Well, but nobody's expecting it there because you know they've like when they were first airing and people were watching them, it just didn't feel that way. I think there's something to be said for a feeling about a show that feels very much that they can use that and it works.
I don't know what that means.
Like
Feels like what?
it feels like the thing they're referencing. Like if the thing they're referencing is lighthearted,
You're
they're
saying
lighthearted.
because we got too far away from the premise.
Not exactly from the premise, but we
Well,
went a different
it is
direction
that
with
though.
Star Trek.
Right, but the premise, because TOS and TNG are both
Yes.
are both continuing mission. We're new civilizations or whatever.
Yes.
And DS9 is on a space station. Voyager, we're lost in space. Enterprise, we haven't
It's less
even
wonder
found
and
anything
awe
yet.
and
Maybe,
more.
maybe that's
you know,
why we're okay with it. But I'll just go back to the original point. I would expect a Star Trek that at least is exploring to have it,
Sure.
even if it wasn't talking all the other stuff. But I don't have that with Batman and Superman. And I think maybe it's just because we've had so much precedent with different iterations for not doing that thing. We're like, I associate it so much with a particular version that I don't want another version to take that version.
I
to-
can
sorry,
understand.
to
I
take
have
that
that a
theme.
little bit
I can
with Batman and Superman because in my brain, because as you were talking about, I was like, yeah, like Ghostbusters should have the Ghostbusters theme. That's just like they're intertwined. And I was thinking about that with like Power Rangers. If we reboot Mighty Morphin, I would want the Mighty Morphin theme to be there somewhere. But like with Batman and Superman, I don't identify those characters with those, like the Burton or the Williams score. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it is, case by case. Because I have
Also,
that with something.
Which themes of these are just, in our opinions, overplayed in general, and just we don't want to see it really besides the original, like, at all, where it's like, it was there, and like now everyone, it's always on like top 10 best themes, and it's like we can't get away from it, and now we're reusing it again in this, and it's like, is that part of it as well?
And see, for me, I think going back to an earlier point you made, I think it's always it's all about the authenticity of the thing. Where if I'm not buying it as truly the thing it's purporting to be, that's more irritating because it's shoving it in my face, trying to prove that it knows what it's doing with the most obvious possible thing, and that gets real pandery.
Can I throw my 2 cents on
Yeah, do
like
it,
the
man.
Superman of it all? I think the reason why what we've heard of the new music is appealing to me is when you get that bit of the riff on Williams is you have to listen for it, or if you just know it really well, you'll recognize it. But it's also doing its own thing. It's a riff. It's not just the Williams thing. I think the issue is less should we keep going back to it. Well, either do your own thing with it or use it correctly. Like the way Justice League just slapped the Williams theme in there, it's so inappropriate. It's Superman not himself fighting the rest of the Justice League, and that's when the John Williams theme kicks in. Why? It's so distracting.
And that's the perfect
inappropriate.
example of unauthentic. That,
Yeah.
Like I'm talking about trying to, and it's even more annoying when fanboys fall for it. Because I remember there being people in the theater when I saw that movie, both with that and with the Burton theme, that were just freaking out because they recognized that, like, they're true fans or something because they recognize the most popular things in media. Like, I'm gonna push back on you just a little bit. You know what I'm gonna say, Robert? I don't think that melody in that teaser for the teaser is subtle at all whatsoever. I don't think you have to listen for it at all. And when you're like, well, if you're really familiar with it, who isn't? Like, who doesn't know that like the back of their hand?
Well, that speaks to what you were saying earlier about Star Trek, is if it doesn't fit the tone, you wouldn't want to hear it if it doesn't fit the tone. But if it does fit the tone, it blends in.
And it's and back to Star Trek, it's ultra pandery all over New Trek.
Very true.
There's lots of places where they are preaching optimism, and you're not seeing that on the screen at all. But then they also get real sappy and fluffy with the music,
And
going.
they think that's what they're doing, and it's not happening.
And I think that's why it kind of works in Godzilla -1 too, where it's like, that was a very, like, that was already we were already like 10 minutes into that action scene when that music starts, and
It already earned its credibility.
we're already like, it's already a really cool scene, and I think the Godzilla music just fits those fights so well that it just kind of works. And the fact that they waited so long before they put it in is like, it kind of makes it more epic and makes it like, you know what?
And you think they earned it?
I think you did earn it, because
Wasn't that movie such a love letter to the 54?
I was talking about music with my mom, and it sometimes bands will and I'm mostly talking about a specific one, but sometimes bands will not think a song is good enough, so they'll just put horns in it to make it cool. And so
However, I thought you were going
or
with
strings,
yeah.
or
So they'll just be like, oh, there's like
overproduced.
Yeah, so it's overproduced from the beginning, so now it's a cool song, right? And I mean, that's kind of my problem with pop music right now.
Well, hell, that's, I mean, like some people would agree with this. That's the Beatles' Let It Be.
Yeah.
That album is so much better when you take all the froth off of it.
So if you don't put in that stuff like right at the beginning of the scene, and it's like, oh, look, there's the Godzilla theme. Remember that? Because that's what they do in the American movies, right? It's like, oh, remember the Mothra theme? Remember the Mothra theme? Remember that, right? And it's right there, like at the beginning, before we've gotten any actual cool stuff on screen. And then in -1, it's
so it feels like it's coasting on it.
And then in -1, we're all sitting in the theater like, heck yes. And then it's do. It's like, wow, you know. It just kind of raises the bar of that scene.
Yeah, that's
higher.
such a terrific point.
And to Jason's point, another great example of that is Casino Royale. That movie holds off on using the James Bond theme until the very end, and it's awesome and it's earned.
Yeah,
and
so he's finally the character you've been waiting for, and then da-da, and then you get to the next movie, and he sort of has to do it
And he's
again.
not yet.
But yeah.
And to John's point, though, of like, yes, a new adaptation should and can have its own theme and stand on its own. In my opinion, Zimmer did that with both the Dark Knight trilogy and with Man of Steel. I like those scores a lot. They're very different, and they don't do any references to older stuff, and I think they're great. I love that music. I also think you can do both. Animated series is a great example.
I was going to
It
bring
has
that up. Yeah.
the Burton Elfman theme and also Shirley Walker's own theme, and they're both very distinct. They're both very good, and they're so well integrated together that I think you can riff on old stuff and also have your own element to it that stands out, or your own new main theme. I think both can be done.
I also think if we'll move on. Like I said, I kind of wanted to do a whole video on this, although we've milked it pretty well at this point. We've pretty much made that video. I also think, Robert, if the Schumacher movies had continued to use the Burton theme, it's arguably likely that would have really cemented this is just the Batman theme, and that even a full-on reboot after that would have continued to use it in some form or fashion. I think a lot of the reason we don't still use it now is actually because of Schumacher.
That's a good point, and that theme's very different, but I do like it a lot, partially because of nostalgia.
But was ostensibly in the same continuity, and yet
Right.
it had its own theme. Like that immediately makes it different from Bond. Because if it had stuck with that theme, but looked and felt so different and had a different actor, now it's James Bond.
Yeah, and there is an incorrect way to do that, because, Burton got 2 movies with that theme, and then Schumacher got 2 movies with its own theme, but then you get the annoying side of that with stuff like the MCU, where individual characters are almost never allowed to have their own theme stick around. They get it for, like, 1 movie, and then we change it and move away from it, except for the Avengers theme, which is in at least 20 of those movies. So I think I think that can also be annoying when you don't let a theme stick around for at least a little bit to, catch on and be remembered by people. I think that can be a problem.
Yeah, that's
I love the theme at the very end of Iron Man 3. It's so good. You get a bit of a riff on it in Age of Ultron, and then never again. So now it's forgotten, and in my opinion, what kind of should have been the Iron Man theme, but whatever.
Yeah, that's another aspect of this that you hit on that I wasn't even really thinking about, is when you're in the same continuity and you abandon a theme, and then but you're still technically in the same continuity, and then sometimes you introduce a theme that becomes the beloved one, and we sort of forget what it sounded like before that, because of course X-Men did that.
Yeah.
And X-Men kind of did it twice, except we didn't continue using the thing after First Class because we immediately go to more legacy nostalgia sequel right after that.
Now,
As much as I love Days of Future Past and I love the X2 theme, people were in love with the First Class theme, and it absolutely could have been a big franchise theme.
Now, do you think you are just biased on
Yes.
the theme at the end of the 20th Century Fox logo in Days of Future Past, or do you think that is actually a good way of putting that theme into a new movie?
What do you mean?
Because we're talking about, reusing themes for new, decades later sequels and stuff.
But I mean, that was the theme of that movie. Like they just throw it into the Fox logo because they're going to actually use it, and that was a big deal to me in the theater because I wasn't expecting it, and so that told me they're going to actually use that theme.
Right, but you didn't know that they were going to use the X2 theme.
So are you saying they shouldn't have got it up front like that?
Do you think it was a good idea for them to use the X2 theme?
Well, I'm gonna see if
I'm
Robert
gonna say yes.
I'm gonna see if Robert fights me when I say this, because I just told him he's wrong when he says that the way the Williams theme was used in that thing from the other day is subtle. But for me in the theater, that bit actually was sort of subtle, only because I didn't think anybody really was as in love with and remembered that theme the way I did. So when the Fox, when that shows up for a second and a half at the end of the Fox theme, it's like da 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 da. I was like, that's for me and nobody else in this theater even knows what's coming, and they didn't. And when you get to, because I wasn't the only person that was kind of flipping out when you get to the opening credits with that, but I saw it coming because I knew what that was. So that's why it was exciting to me. So I think in that particular case, no, it's not foreshadowing it too much, because I guarantee you hardly anybody else in the theater I was in knew that was coming.
So I'm going to throw another thing at this. For me, like you guys were talking about the 007 and the theme getting reprised. In that, I'm a little bit more okay with things like that because one, that is a quintessential Bond theme. But at the same time, most of the Bond movies have their own main title that just comes in later to associate Bond. He is the Bond.
It feels
now.
more like a theme of a TV show.
A little bit. I could see that.
Well, yeah,
but
like you're never going to make a Mission Impossible thing that doesn't have the Mission Impossible theme.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how different tonally the movies are.
But I like the fact that like Bond has a song that gets written that for up front at the beginning of the movie, and that fits the tone of that particular Bond movie. I really appreciate that they have the homage with the original music, but that they've created their own thing.
It's
as
not.
well.
It's a little different though, Brandon.
That's a
'Cause
great point.
it's not just homage. It is, but it's not just homage in a lot of movies, because a lot of them will continue to still weave that in and out of score quite a bit. You're talking about the difference between a song for an opening and the score, and sometimes the big song for a Bond movie is actually used a little bit in score. Very often it's not. Very often that's the only place it gets, and then your typical 007 theme is weaved in and out.
By the way,
Not as much in the newer stuff, but up through Brosnan, it was done like that a lot.
that bathroom scene in Casino Royale is awesome.
It
Where
is.
he shoots at the camera and it does the thing. And
Oh,
it's not an
yeah.
actual.
I
Like,
forgot about that.
and it's just a nod to him walking, but it's like inside of that, and it does the that's awesome.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys.
I
We've got to move on from this topic.
Yes.
There was part of me that's actually hoping you wouldn't bring that up, just because I wanted to do a whole show on it, and now you get a little more bang for your buck tonight, folks. Jason,
Can I-
sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. Well, okay, can I just explain what I mean by subtle?
No.
For the new one, when I
No.
say subtle, shut up, John.
No, I know what the
I'm
word
just
means,
kidding.
and it's not.
But okay, what I mean is it's at a different tempo. It's done in a different way. It's a completely different type of music. It's not just, and I've never heard like that different of a riff before. Well, it would be different if it was just the Williams theme, like it is in Justice League 2017.
So because
or
it's being
The Flash,
hummed.
like
It's the straight
Yeah,
up
and it's at a
melody.
different
They're not
pace.
dancing around it. It's
Right.
just that melody.
whatever. That's my.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's done
Like
very.
they do dance around it, but by the end, it's just
Yeah.
that theme.
Just because Robert,
Like that, then it's not subtle. By
I'm
the
just
end.
giving Robert crap because it's fun. Just because it's not something is not as blatant as it can be doesn't make it subtle.
And I think you're giving general audiences too much credit. I don't think most people would pick up on that, but I don't know.
Okay, Robert, come on.
But okay, another this will be real quick. Then you could move on. But just with the music.
Thanks, Robert.
thing,
Thank you for your permission to move on.
No, I have a question.
2025, folks. It's going to be the Robert Wild Show.
Yeah. Let's make it happen. No, because I want to hear John's take on this. Real quick. We know that they're making a new Harry Potter show. Does that use any of the movie score? Just prediction. If you had a bet, what do you think the music?
I think it is highly likely we see the that main theme that they composed somewhere. I would rather they just distance yourself from the movies, because everybody's going to be comparing you to the movies.
Yep.
And people aren't going to trust you, and they're going to think it's Amazon Lord of the Rings all over again. Also, Robert, we can I think bet the farm on they're going to, because the only thing they've shown from that whatsoever is a logo that is just that logo with a song that is just that song.
So that's what
And
I
it's-
was actually going to say.
It's
was-
not even a lady humming it. It's just that song.
What I was going to say is if they do it anywhere, it's over the logo.
Yeah.
because that's what makes the most sense.
Well,
and if
and-
I remember correctly, they did that for several of the movies.
I feel like they
there's
should
no
just
Middle
do-
Eastern sounding Man of Steel score that weaves it in and out. It's just
I feel like
It's
I feel
just
like
that.
they could do that instrumentation, but just like stay away from the original score of those movies as much as possible.
I think you can set any kind of precedent you want to.
Mhm.
I agree that it's a gigantic risk. Now we're talking about what they're going to do versus what they should do. They're going to use it. I guarantee it. Because when they announced it, I'm telling you, it was this 5-second teaser with the logo and that theme. They've just told you they're doing.
I'm hoping they use.
It's not a placeholder. They don't even have footage. They're just gonna do it.
I'm hoping they use the theme from the first movie because I think that theme is better. But
Isn't it the same theme all the way through? What are you talking about?
no, there's a main theme that goes throughout the first movie, and
Williams
it's like
always has two.
in a little bit of two, but I always preferred that theme over the first one.
So
Or
I
over
think
over
it's
the
a
movie.
risk, but I think depending on how close they're getting in tone, they could make it a very similar flavor and just flesh it out and add more detail from the books and potentially get away with it if the acting and the writing is good enough. If they're tonally getting very far away at all from what those movies were and they take themselves more seriously from the beginning and it's for an older audience from the beginning, then don't use it at all.
I'm gonna be disappointed if that's what we do. I just want the books to be adapted. Like, I like those movies, but as they go on, they get sloppier and sloppier with adaptation. I just want them to adapt the books.
When I saw the first Harry Potter movie, I couldn't believe how much it took the book and put it on the screen for what I had envisioned in my head. There was practically no difference. And as they went on, I thought they were okay, but I didn't even see part 2 of the 7th movie.
Oh wow.
I
Don't
read all
watch
the
it.
books. I
It's not
read
good.
all the
Don't
books,
watch it.
But I
That
never
first
saw...
part is good. The second part is terrible.
Okay.
Oh,
Take it under
and-
advisement.
Wow.
That
Hey,
first
hey,
part
I'm
is
a disagree
boring,
there.
and the second part is embarrassing.
No, the second part
Wow.
is boring. Oh no!
Wow.
I think I'm
So
mixing them up.
Deathly
I've never
Hallows
heard
hate
this.
here.
I've never heard this. These
I love both parts.
Well, they removed...
I think it's dreadful.
They removed a subplot in one of the movies that was in the books, and suddenly a major plot no longer made sense.
I mean,
in
I'm
one of
not
the later
gonna
movies.
rewatch
No, I mean, that's-
7
that's
because
the
they're
biggest
both
issue with
not
7
good.
is-
But
It just puts all of those subplots back in, but none of them have been set up because
Yeah.
they were cut from other movies.
yeah,
And then you get into that third act, and it's just shoot beams out of your wands, everybody. Just shoot some beams. Knock them off
the
the
most
bridge. Shoot the
embarrassing.
beams.
The first two movies are my favorite because those most mainly capture how I imagined that world when I'm reading the books.
Yeah,
3 is a better movie, but I hate what it does to the rest of the series because the rest of the series just wants to be 3.
the most embarrassing movie is 4 because it just
Oh no, the most embarrassing movie is 6.
no. Well, okay. The problem is I haven't read 6, and I liked that movie, so I don't know.
I can't deal with the teenage romance stuff in the 6th movie. That was the worst part of the books, and I hate it more in the movie.
Yeah, that's also what I didn't like about 4.
4, they just made it like the maze thing took like 5 minutes. Like they didn't do anything.
Okay, guys, we've got to move on and get some more Q&A here.
Okay, we
spent like 25 minutes on one question.
we have a $5 super chat from Pros and Cons guy. I'm pretty sure this one is gonna take longer.
No, don't say that.
How do you feel about the Spider-Man
Can't say
spin-off
that.
movies ending, the ones with his enemies?
What we have officially christened here on Geekvolution, the Spider-Man shared universe with the Sony Spider-Man shared universe without Spider-Man, the SSSW, whatever it is now. It's shared US. Yeah, there it is.
Sus.
I'm suspicious that it's actually over because Sony has more hubris than any godlike wielding power villain of any movie you've ever seen. Sony is so obsessed with their own ownership of that character and not giving anybody else any credit for it and they just act like a little child that got their toy taken away from them. That I'm not completely convinced that they won't just pivot now. Like, they have claimed it's over. I don't trust it.
Okay.
I think there is Austin and I have talked about this, and I think he's right when he says there is every possibility that they just pivot and they make another one of these, but they finally actually put Spider-Man in it. Where they go, well, that was the difference. It took us 6 movies to realize that the reason people don't like these is because we didn't put Spider-Man in there. And there is truth to that!
Well, and to your point, they could do the complete opposite of what they've been doing, because we have that Spider-Man Noir show coming out. We'll see if that's good and that's successful. But then everything after that could be Spider-Gwen movie, Spider-Woman movie, Spider-Woman 2 movie, Spider-Punk movie. Like, that's the direction they could go. Just all the Spider-Mans. Give them their own movie.
Or make them all TV.
That'd be the complete opposite of these villain movies.
Yeah.
You also predicted that they'll do Agent Venom, and I think that's correct. I think
if they do another Venom, it will be Agent Venom. Well, and I think the day or two after I said that, they announced it.
Yes. And I sent it to you, and you were like, yes, I told you so.
But what's weird about it is, then Kraven is this gigantic failure before it even comes out, where they take it out of a bunch of screens and it only releases on 1,000 screens. And then shortly thereafter they go, okay, psych, never mind, we're not making any more of these. And I'm like, well, what did you think was going to happen with Kraven? It sat on a shelf for 2 years, and everybody was laughing at it from the very beginning. Like, you were really putting any eggs in that basket? You were banking on that at all? Like,
even if that movie was good, nobody's liked the last, I don't know, all of them.
Right.
Well, I mean,
have no trust with the public.
The Venom movies have at least made some money, but Madam Web wasn't enough to make you say that? I mean, I guess you were waiting around for Venom 3.
Bombed twice.
Yeah, yeah, and then Venom 3 comes out, and I guess does well enough that they go, good thing we set up Null, and like next time we'll do Agent Venom. I'm not convinced, guys, that they won't still do that.
No, I mean, probably will.
Or that they won't try to... The other thing I could see them doing is this silly loophole where they go, we're done putting out these things on our own, but... And I know this kind of contradicts the thing I said a minute ago, but we're... In order to still make a thing look all Sony heavy, they go, okay, fine, we'll try to get MCU to officially release a movie with Venom in it where he's in the MCU. So when they do Agent Venom, it'll be tied to their crappy Venom movies, but it will technically be an MCU movie, and they think then maybe it will make money. I could also see them doing that.
Let's make Spider-Man movies. Like, can we have another Spider-Man movie? Do you remember when we made Spider-Man movies?
And I mean, I would love an eventual good Agent Venom movie. That'd be great, but it needs to be related to Spider-Man.
Remember when we had a Spider-Man movie with one Spider-Man in it?
It's scary how long it's been since that happened.
Like, can we have a Spider-Man movie with not 0 Spider-Man, not 3 Spider-Man, not 100 one Spider-Man, please?
I didn't think about this until he said something. Far From Home is the last time we just had a Spider-Man in a movie.
Yep.
Somewhere
so good.
between 0 and 2 Spider-Men.
They're so
So
extreme.
they're gonna be half a Spider-Man.
They're gonna have a whole 6-movie Spider-Man shared
Just
universe.
Man.
Never a
There's
Spider-Man.
a movie called Spider, and then there's a movie
You know how many
called Man.
Spider-Man related movies have come out since we just had one Spider-Man in?
I mean, I guess Madam Web, that's like a 4th Spider-Man movie.
Could you do a Spider-Man origin movie that's just a movie about how the spider that bit Spider-Man was created?
Sure.
Isn't that Madam Web?
That's
That's
just
basically Madam Web.
What's hilarious about this too is that, to your point, Jason, like, I realized that the MCU Spider-Man movies are a conglomeration between, a collaboration between Sony and MCU and Marvel, but the Spider-Man movies that Sony has made all by themselves have been exactly what you're talking about. Nothing or all of them. Like Sony specific, and like yes, MCU has now made one that is multiple Spider-Mans, and Sony was heavily involved with that, and it's going to their other 2 franchises. But how hilarious is it that they make 6 movies in what they called, or what at least, I don't know if they called it this or if the fans deemed it this, but it became officially, and this is not what it should be. It should be what I called it, the Spider-Man shared universe without Spider-Man. They call it the SSU, the Spider-Man shared universe.
Yes.
There's no Spider-Man.
It's the SSU.
How are we calling it the SSU? It's preposterous. But then they also made the Spider-Verse movies, which are all of the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
What? The Spider-Man shared
Can we
universe?
get something in between, please?
Where the hell is Ian
Morbius
Malcolm
mentioned
when we need him?
Spider-Man.
Could we please have some Spider-Man in our Spider-Man movie? Oh my God!
To
Jason,
answer
that's
the
funniest
actual
thing you've ever
super
said.
chat, good riddance. Like, I don't know.
Okay, well, Daddy, you don't have the music, but we did get someone who had their first super chat on a live stream.
Oh, we can bring it up though. Yeah, I did not pull it up for this
But,
stream.
like, we have so many people here, it would be so funny.
What would be so funny?
Because we have so many people here, so playing the music would be funny.
Oh, just because we're all gonna have to dance to it.
Yes.
Yeah. This is running a little sluggish, but I'll try to bring it up real quick. Go ahead and read it. Go ahead and read it.
Okay, this is $20. He is right now in the lead.
Wait, are you sure this
Wow.
is the first time this guy's left a super
Yes.
chat? Thank you so much for the gigantic super chat. Braden Atkinson is a name we know, but
Yes.
maybe he's never left a super
left
chat.
a super chat.
Braden, thank you so much, man.
It's
Appreciate
$20
it.
from Braden Atkinson.
I will say right now, apologies for the letdown this answer will be, but thank you so
Yes.
much for the super chat.
Wait.
Here, I'll go and play it. I've got it up here. Oh my God.
All this technology.
I wanna take you for a ride. I wanna take you for a ride. I wanna take you for a ride. I wanna take you for a ride.
Yeah, dance, John.
Okay.
What did he say? I missed it.
He said he can't hear it.
What? You can't hear it? I thought I thought I set up the sound. Did you guys not get the sound?
I didn't get it.
Oh. Well, now it's fair. Now it's
thought
fair,
you were
John.
doing-
But I suspect that he wouldn't have even if he could hear it. That's.
You're probably right.
I thought you were doing a hilarious bit where you were dancing to music that wasn't playing.
No, we always
That's
do the
my
take
bad.
you for a ride music, but I forgot to add that to the screen share. Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, well,
Stop dancing.
he asks, hey, will you review my Who Shows You Madoka Magica as part of Superhero Rewind, whether it is the show or the 2-part movie adaptation?
I don't know what that is.
I've never heard of it.
It sounds not American, so
Right.
probably
so probably not. Yeah. So the way Rewind works.
Oh, and there's a star in there too.
The rule for Rewind, and not that we don't occasionally make exceptions for just things we really want to do, but typically Rewind is English language or American-made films. And sometimes you'll get like Japanese-American collaborations like Batman Ninja, which sort of count. But I guess that more than sort of counts because it was in our American line. But there's so much Japanese superhero. I'm not going to extend it to that because I'm trying to get as close to every superhero movie ever made, and I have to limit that to American and English language. That doesn't mean that I won't do material in other formats on foreign stuff, and I've spread my wings a little bit and done occasional anime here and there the last few years. So I'm not against like looking at it and reviewing it if it was requested or something, but not for Rewind.
It's like different sizes of infinities. You have
That's it.
You have an infinity between 0 and infinity, but you also have an infinity numbers between 0 and 1.
Well, in Japan, probably technically has a lot more superhero even than we do.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to anime.
So they're the larger
So
infinity.
it would just be preposterous to attempt that.
preposterous.
Thank you so much for the gigantic super chat.
Preprosperous.
Much to John's chagrin, because he wants more Dragon Ball stuff on the channel.
I'm sorry, John.
You should make a show called this.
I don't know what just happened.
A show called this.
Where it's
Just
Superhero
name the show.
Rewind in Japanese.
Oh!
And it's just Japanese superhero.
That's not
movies.
very loud. I couldn't
I
really
know.
hear it. But okay, so he just played a voice saying Superhero Rewind in Japanese.
Yes.
Oh,
It's pretty cool. I'm gonna open one like that.
Yeah,
at some point.
Superhero Makimoshi.
Yeah, I'll
yes.
just play it.
Just play it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's knock out some more of these super chats, shall we? Thank you guys for sticking around. We're gonna try to call it in about 15 minutes because we're gonna be at 3 hours.
Okay. Well, we got a $2 Canadian dollars from Mr. Cool.
Thanks, Ben.
He says, "Hey Cap,
Hey,
Merry Christmas."
I think you had one before that, did you not?
No, one after.
A one after. Oh,
I said,
thanks, Ben. Merry Christmas.
and then he
to you
put
too,
in
sir.
another $5 Canadian dollars, and he says, "I feel like I have to ask something.
Well, I'll answer it.
Would you ever consider doing a superhero rewind on the Doctor Who movie? I consider him a superhero personally."
Interesting.
No, I kind of draw the line there. I've never thought of the Doctor as a superhero.
Have you ever
a
considered
case-
bringing back
A case can
science
be made
fiction, really?
for so much, for so many different things,
Mhm.
and we go round and around all the time. What counts, what doesn't. If there was a gigantic mob that all came together and agreed that's a superhero that counts, I would consider it. I do not see that mob happening. I don't see that. So probably
I feel
not.
like most of the superhero comparisons with the Doctor is mostly from the reboot show, which is much more influenced by and stuff.
Was the movie Peter Cushing? Did you do a couple of those? Is that what he's talking about?
If that's what he's talking about, I've actually talked about that before. I did back on the old
I
pop
think he's
culture.
talking about the 98, yeah.
Back on the old pop culture yearbook. I saw that movie and talked about it.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
So there is in fact a video about that on the channel. But I wouldn't do it for
That
rewind.
was like 12 years ago.
To your question, would I ever bring back science fiction rewind?
Yeah.
In kind of the commentary form it's in right now, if I had the time, I would love to.
Mm.
I would love to do regular science, like prepared science fiction commentaries.
That'd be really
that
cool.
would be awesome.
Yeah, he's probably talking about the '96 movie, which is the only place that the 8th Doctor shows up. That's like right, but that's the only thing between the original show and the reboot story.
Yeah, yeah. And I've never seen it.
If
I've
it's,
heard it's not great.
if
Really
it's that
hard-
Cushing thing, I was not real impressed with it. Yeah,
I've heard it's not great.
they had a really odd take on the Daleks, and yeah, it's not great.
All right, we got $5 from Dan Schneider.
Thanks, man.
It's called the SSU because you have to be as evil as the Hitler, the Hitler, to pull this crap on us. Fire Aim Pascal. The execs need to be tried for their crimes. And another $2 from Dan Schneider.
I mean, more counterintuitive than evil. But
I
yeah.
suggest the firing squad.
Oh, boy.
Wow!
This is coming from someone who put his name as Dan Schneider, which is the funniest thing ever.
It's an excellent point you're making.
I just
Oh,
love
God.
that you need to be as evil as the Hitler.
Merry effing Christmas, folks.
You filthy animals.
Oh, we need to talk about this.
Brandon, somebody should make that actual movie and release it. Like
Oh,
the
that'd be fine.
only Home Alone thing left to do is to go back and
Oh my
actually
gosh.
make that gangster.
Did you
movie.
hear in the 2021 movie they made I'm pretty sure it was the Disney Plus movie. They did a callback to it where
Oh no,
they
I did not hear about this.
they make it they make
that weird British movie.
they make a remake of it and they go,
With
man,
millions.
I prefer the original.
Oh, no.
And it's like this weird like science fiction version of it, and it's like
kind of
in
hilarious.
color, and it's hilarious.
That's only a fun meta joke if the movie doesn't suck,
It does.
and I've
Yep.
heard it does.
I've heard it does.
So what are they up
That
to,
is
6 now?
as
Yeah.
That is as bad as Jean Grey in X-Men Apocalypse complaining about Return of the Jedi, saying that the third movie is always the worst.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I don't think Disney Plus had the guts to do what they should have done, which is try to make the audience buy an entire season of that premise on television. That's what I wanted to see them attempt. I wanted to see an 8 to 10 episode Home Alone.
Yeah. And
He's stuck in that house all summer
Can
long.
he actually be home and alone in that series? Can he not just be, like, in a different city, or, like, he's only there for, like, 8 hours alone, or he's not even, like, home alone? He's just, like, with his
it's an
parents.
8-hour miniseries a la 24, like 8
Yeah,
hours.
that'd be funny.
Oh, yeah, you do it in real time?
Yeah.
Pretty great.
And then the big twist is Macaulay Culkin comes back as Kevin McAllister, but he's all like screwed up and ruined now. Like he doesn't like his parents disowned him, and he's the burglar breaking into a house.
Oh man.
Because, like, well,
Yeah.
did you also hear in the 2021 movie, the guy who played Buzz came back as a police officer?
I did hear about that.
Yeah.
Nice. Famously, Culkin not a fan of those movies, his own movies included.
But yeah, I love Home Alone 3. That kid's not home alone. He's there for like 5 hours, and like there's other people there from time to time. Like it's barely Home Alone.
And this is yet another example that just because something is popular doesn't mean it's franchisable. Sorry,
Yes.
Robert. What were you gonna say?
Just make an animated show. They should have made one in the 90s.
They should have.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Robert, because that was actually a GNN topic that I pitched to Jason recently that I really want to do. Or we were talking about maybe opening this show with it, but a GNN type topic. Do you remember this, Jason?
Yes.
Where it's movies that shockingly didn't get children's cartoons. And that's way up there. I thought of that one, too.
What about movies that
Yeah.
shockingly did get children's cartoons
Well,
too?
we've talked about that a lot. But I'd love to do a list of the ones that ought to have.
Yeah.
And this could be incorrect, but that last Home Alone garbage movie, Home Sweet Home Alone, I don't think that was actually produced by Disney. I think that was just a holdover from the Fox buyout. I think it was just something they inherited from Fox when they bought Fox, and then just dumped it on Disney Plus and made it Disney Plus exclusive.
Okay.
Why couldn't that have been deleted from history? Why couldn't that have gotten backcurled? I don't know.
Because Zaslav's not running Disney, that's why.
Yep.
There are days I wish he
I would
was.
love to see that reality.
Oh boy.
I forgot they made a new Home Alone. I liked the first three as a kid, and then I saw the fourth one and I was like, I'm out.
The fourth one is weird. I've never seen it, but it's weird because they just like recast everyone, and it's
Yep.
supposed to be the same cast, or it's supposed to be the same like cast of characters, but like it's
Oh yeah,
not.
it is. It's supposed to be it, but it's just a crappy like made-for-TV movie.
And like the mom and like the parents are divorced. And they're like not those characters at all. And then like Marv has a girlfriend. It's the weirdest thing ever. I need to finally see that.
It's the Superman Returns of Home Alone.
Also, yeah, no, that's not incorrect. Like, canonically, Kevin in that movie is younger than he was in the first movie, but it's also a sequel to the first movie, and I don't know how to explain that.
There was time travel involved.
I would
Okay.
watch that Home Alone movie where he has to go back in time to stop himself from being home.
Oh no.
We got a $5 super chat from OK Great, and we need to actually sit down and watch this.
Okay.
Have you heard of the new Amazon video game show, Secret Level?
Yes, we
It's
have.
an animated
We talked about this last
anthology
time.
show where each episode is a different game. Yeah, so I'm only gonna watch like 2 of those, or 2 or 3.
We were seriously talking about doing a reaction stream, me and Jason.
Yeah,
That'd be a fun blind commentary.
yeah, because I
I want
want
to watch the Concord level episode because that's just funny.
Yeah, that is really funny. The fact that like, isn't that the game that just doesn't exist anymore?
The game just doesn't exist anymore. It was on the market for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then they made a whole episode off of it.
Well, they announced that episode before the game had even come out,
Right.
and then the game came out and nobody cared.
That's really funny. But yeah, yeah, it looks weird. I don't know. Oh, we've got some ranting, Dad.
I know, I saw that.
We have a $5 super chat from Mr. Cool.
Yep. No, I saw that. Oh, I forgot the gun.
Mr. Cool. Who's his cool?
Yes, he sure did.
Yeah.
How
He's
is the
just-
Doctor not a superhero? He's got superpowers.
There's some interpretation happening here.
Secret identity. Companions are basically sidekicks, and he even has a lair in the TARDIS.
I've never seen Doctor Who, and I agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, again, the case can easily be made.
Yeah.
But I
Also, don't agree that he has superpowers. Like,
Batman doesn't have superpowers.
yeah, I mean, like, he doesn't have. I guess if he's got superpowers, his whole race sort of does. Like, I'm sure he means in the whole regeneration thing. They wouldn't frame it that way. But yeah, I mean, like, I have suggested before. I'm not sure where to draw the line because there's so much that easily lines up with Neo as a superhero, but unequivocally, people do not like the idea that should be considered in the superhero pantheon. And I just feel like you end up with a weird precedent where we start to get to a place where just like freaking everything counts. I think Doctor Who being such in the tradition of classic television and not being framed so much like a superhero initially, like I like John's point that it feels more that way when you get to the reboot series or to the modern. I guess not reboots, but to the modern stuff. So like, yes, I get why you're saying that. I've never really considered that, so you're sort of putting me on the spot where I have to decide if he counts as a superhero or not. I don't think that there's a lot of even if I'm with you, I think there's a lot of people that would agree with this. I feel like if we put that up, people are like, really? Like, now that's a superhero? I don't like to put Transformers in that camp, but Austin does. Like, we're never going to all
G.I.
agree
Joe.
on what should count and what doesn't. Sorry, what's that, John?
Or G.I. Joe.
Or G.I. Joe? Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around why I wouldn't consider Doctor Who a superhero, but I am in that camp too. It's just not quite. He might have similar qualities, but
I don't want to get down this rabbit hole again, and we've got to finish the show up. It's just the term is so vague. There are a lot of things that get grandfathered in simply because of their origins in media, where they start as comic book things and in a world with other superheroes. Because Doctor Who doesn't have that and wasn't framed that way initially, it's hard to think of him that way. But like, if you do, I get it. But I mean, like, when you start getting down to a character has a lair, a character has a costume, a character has a sidekick, a character has skills that are well, now Indiana Jones is a superhero.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like, there's kind of like a tonal quality to some degree that the thing almost has to have before I think of it that way, and it's really hard to put your finger on it.
Yeah, well, and Busta Sims
And we're
says,
never
you know,
gonna all agree on what the thing should be and what the thing shouldn't be. So I can't sit here and even though I totally get where he's coming from with that, I can't sit here and go, well, yes, of course you're right. Now that you've given me these elements, I have to now concede it has to count, and now I'm doing it on a rewind. Like I can't
Yeah.
do that.
Well, with the Doctor, especially classic Doctor, from what I know of that, and maybe like, and to a degree, you know, the revival keeps with this. He's more like a Star Trek character. He's an explorer. He just so happens to come into these issues and has to stop them, but he doesn't go looking for them.
Yeah, that's true too. Like, he's not on patrol.
Yeah, my only
He just
two
puts the
cents.
land on the problem.
Yeah, my only 2 cents on that is what is their objective? Or like, there is a difference between, in Batman's case, a war on crime, like just as an idea, and like a war against a country, which is why I think G.I. Joe may be disqualified, or whatever Cobra is, but Austin would disagree. But I feel like what they're fighting is a big, and what their overall objective is a big factor in what you
Well,
consider a superhero.
And like the Doctor is kind of a loner and is on his own and does sort of go rogue, and that's one of the big arguments I've always made for counting RoboCop. But some of it for me, and not everybody agrees with me on RoboCop, but the big advantage RoboCop has, for instance, in the superhero category over something like the Doctor is that it comes so much out of that tradition, and the Doctor doesn't. The Doctor comes much more out of a classic sci-fi literature and kind of Star Trek tradition.
Brandon, who's your favorite Doctor?
I'm a big fan of Tenet, but I need to go back and watch. I didn't mind Eccleston, but like Tenet's probably my favorite. And I'm trying to Matt Smith. I really like Matt Smith as well. I want to go back and watch more of that because I think it ended just after Matt Smith, and I need to see more of it.
Yeah, Eccleston's my favorite just because I really liked how he played that character.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Tenet's just great.
And I actually, so Nikki's been giving a push to go back and watch some of original Doctor Who too, and that's something I'm also interested in. And I know it's a different bag completely. Yeah. So
and of classic Fourth Doctor is my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
cool.
See, I think
I'm a big Tenet fan.
I think Tenet is quintessential, even if that's not your favorite.
Hey, he makes Lion King references.
But I like. I guess my hot take is I like Capaldi more than Smith. I know a lot of people like Smith.
I just haven't spent enough time with Capaldi, but I loved what I saw.
I've seen
The
clips
writing
and it
is
looks
kind
good.
of 50-50, but just like his performance, I think is over Smith for me.
You have a favorite companion?
Well, Rose.
Rose is good. I also liked Donna a lot.
Yeah, I don't like Donna.
Not a fan of Donna. What about Rory and... No?
No.
Alrighty.
We got to wrap the show up here, guys.
Okay.
Jason, would you tally up super chats
Yes.
and let me know who the winner is? So, thanks a lot for all the support tonight, guys. Appreciate you. The top super chatter tonight, like I said, is going to pick the second subject for the Superhero Rewind commentary project next year. And whoever it is, you can throw it out in the chat tonight if you want to, and I'll see it even after the fact if we wrap up, or before you get it in, or you can send me an email at captainlogan1989@gmail.com, or leave it in the comments after this, wherever you want to put it, I'll find it, and or at least of those places. And please make sure that it is something off of the official list, of which there are plenty of things, and some things that are very iffy and maybe shouldn't even count. That's how difficult this is in deciding what counts as superhero or not. And that list, there is a link to that. It's on Austin's Letterboxd, and that is in the description of every recent episode of the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. So you can find that list. It is 400 movies. I think so. I mean, there's plenty there, but please pick something off of that official list. And who is it, Jason?
It is Braden Atkinson. And but Braden Atkinson, you need to pick something again off the list that is not Mahu Shujo Madoka Star Magica.
Yeah, I feel bad about that. It's like Braden wins by asking about a movie for Rewind. That's not the one we're going to do.
And yeah.
Now, again, I'm not saying that I wouldn't talk about that on something, but I'd like you to pick something off of the actual list. So thanks for that. And again, you can throw it here, or you can throw it in one of the other places I mentioned. Side Scrolling Hero is saying hello to Brandon.
Hello.
And
Hello, side-scrolling hero.
and everybody else is talking about Doctor Who, because naturally Ben shows up, and now the whole show is just about Doctor Who.
Yep.
John, do you have any last insightful words before we wrap up this evening?
You must be as evil as the Hitler to not like Doctor Who.
Oh boy. The Hitler. So if there's the Hitler, who is a Hitler?
I don't know.
Just anyone else in the man's family, really. Sorry, John.
You're not.
Not really, but I mean, since everyone's talking about Doctor Who, just go watch the Doctor Who Christmas special. It's the season, and there's a lot of good ones.
Oh yeah. My favorite is the first one. Yeah. That's where he references Lion King.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are
It's
you
great.
talking about Tenet's first one?
Yeah, Tenet's first one. Where it's like his first episode, and it's great.
He spends all of it in bed.
Brandon, you have a fan. Side-scrolling hero says he always tunes in when you show up.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks.
Dan
Shit.
Schneider says, sorry, I typed that message really quickly. How do you apologize for the Hitler? That's amazing. Can't apologize for that. I don't care if it's an accident. I don't need to know the genesis of that. It's the best thing that happened this evening. It's the best thing next to 0 Spider-Mans or all of the Spider-Mans. Nothing in between.
I suddenly was imagining Scrooge as Hitler because of what you said, and I was, get me Genesis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We just
Christopher Lloyd would have made a very interesting Hitler. Like,
I
if,
still
like
could.
if he ever played that
We-
character.
No, Brandon.
still alive.
Brandon.
No. Unless there was some kind of conspiracy we don't know about, Hitler was much younger than that when he committed suicide.
Well, yes, but he could still play Hitler. Like, don't be an ageist.
I don't think he could.
That's not.
I do think it would be funny though.
We did get Dan Schneider apologize. We did get someone named Dan Schneider apologizing for saying the Hitler.
It's a Christmas meal.
Jareth, I don't think we did your question tonight on Patreon. Did
No, we did not get.
we still
to
have a
lot
couple
of
left.
Patreon questions.
We still have a few left from this month. We'll get them knocked out at the beginning of, or the next time we do the show, which will probably be January. So apologies for not finishing them. We had a bunch of super chats tonight.
Thank you to everyone.
We always do at least one, but we'll finish them up, and then we'll put out feelers for next month. And we shouldn't get too behind because lately we haven't had a ton of them, so we should be all right.
Yeah.
We were gonna do a last segment tonight like we usually do, but we're so late. I'm gonna go ahead and forego it. I think,
Okay. Yeah.
but because it's already well after 11 and you got to go to bed.
Yeah.
But everybody, thanks a lot. I got a movie to watch for request. So thanks a lot for being here, everybody. Brandon, thanks for coming over.
It was fun. Thanks for having
We
me.
were not expecting to see you. Robert, John, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Nice to have you on.
It was a very fun, exciting show, despite the fact that Austin wasn't able to make it because he was supposed to be here. And we had, I don't know, we went 3 hours. We had a big enough group. I don't want to say I'm glad Austin's not here, but I am kind of glad we didn't have another person.
Yeah. And Austin would have fought us on everything we said
He
about what counts as
It would have been a
superheroes.
6-hour show. No.
I think even Austin would say Doctor Who doesn't count, but maybe not.
I don't know.
Maybe not. John, I'm sorry I talked over you. What were you saying?
Just an hour per person, so the more people you add, they'll have to go into their hour.
I'm sorry, I completely missed that. Your mic is a little garbled. I don't know what you're saying.
It just adds an extra hour per person on the stream. So if Austin can be like an hour.
That's an extra hour. Yeah, so it's probably lucky that maybe I am glad Austin's not here. Austin, I'm glad you're not here. Yeah, I said it out loud.
We'll clip that out.
But
Austin, I'm
Austin,
also glad you're not here.
Austin ghosted you during the day, like some kind of day ghost. He didn't ghost me. He didn't message me and say I'm not going to be able to make it. That's not ghosting.
It is transparent, though.
All right, we're going to get going. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. I was Captain Logan.
The ghost of Christmas Day.
No. No.
And Jason and John and Robert. Thank you guys. I can think of Robert. And Brandon. Did I not say Brandon either?
No.
Well, I got stuck on Robert. Good night, everybody. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Oh, my God.